The sleeper's mirror. Every night, when your eyes close and the world falls away, something remarkable happens. You enter a place that defies the rules of physics, logic, and time. You see things that never happened, feel emotions that don't belong to your waking life. And sometimes, just sometimes, you wake with a fragment of a truth you didn't know you carried. We call these experiences dreams. But what if they're more than random images, more than psychological noise? What if dreams are not fiction, but reflections? What if they are the mind, unfiltered, unmasked, and unchained? This is the sleeper's mirror. The idea that your dreams are the most honest version of yourself, showing not what you want to see, but what you need to understand. During the day, you wear masks. We all do. You perform roles, follow routines, suppress impulses, bury memories, conform to expectations. It's survival. Society doesn't allow your raw mind to speak without consequence. But when you sleep, when the choreography of the waking world dissolves, something sacred emerges, the truth. In dreams, you can fly, drown, run endlessly without moving. You revisit lost loves, childhood homes, dead relatives. You scream without sound. You cry for people you've never met. These things feel surreal. But what if they are emotional X-rays? What if your brain, when free, shows you the reflection you avoid by day? Consider recurring dreams. The hallway you can never reach the end of. The exam you didn't study for. The teeth falling out. These aren't nonsense. They're patterns, mental fingerprints. They repeat because something inside you is repeating. An unresolved fear. An unanswered question. A memory sealed too tightly. You dream of drowning, not because you fear water, but because you're overwhelmed. You fall, not from fear of heights, but from losing control. The imagery is symbolic, yes, but the emotion is real, unfiltered, pure, a mirror. And what about nightmares? We treat them like anomalies, glitches, but maybe they're the most honest dreams of all. In nightmares, the masks are gone. Your mind confronts the things you refuse to face in daylight. Trauma, shame, desire, death. You wake up sweating, shaken, terrified, but more awake than before. Because the sleeper's mirror doesn't lie. It forces you to see. Now think of lucid dreams. Those rare, crystalline moments when you know you're dreaming. And you take control. This isn't fantasy. It's consciousness inside consciousness. Awareness reflecting into itself. You become the sculptor of your own mirror. And what you choose to do in that space, to fly, to heal, to destroy, says more about you than words ever could. Even in control, you're still reflecting yourself, just with a little more light. Science explains dreams through brain activity, memory consolidation, emotional regulation. And yes, those things happen. But science only explains the mechanism, not the message. It doesn't explain why people see deceased loved ones in dreams and wake up healed. Why artists and inventors have breakthroughs while sleeping. Paul McCartney dreamed yesterday. Tesla dreamed his machines. Kekulé saw the benzene ring coiled like a snake in a dream. These aren't random firings. They are reflections from a deeper layer of mind. There's a reason ancient cultures, Egyptians, Greeks, indigenous tribes, believed dreams were messages from gods, ancestors, or the soul itself. They understood what we've almost forgotten. The dream world is not a separate place. It is the same mind, stripped of barriers. And what of those dreams that seem to know more than you do? The ones that show outcomes you haven't reached? Faces you've never seen, until you meet them in life. Impossible landscapes that feel like home. These aren't fantasies. They're possibilities. Alternate reflections. The mirror showing not just who you are, but who you could be, who you once were, who you still are, beneath all the forgetting. Because the truth is, your dreams know you better than you do. They aren't bound by your lies. They don't care about your excuses. They reflect your soul in symbols that beg to be understood. If you learn to read them, if you study your mirror carefully, you can uncover truths waking life hides. But most people don't. Most people wake up, shrug off the dream, and forget it by breakfast. They dismiss the most honest voice they have. Because truth is uncomfortable, and dreams are rarely comfortable. They are unsettling, exposing. But that's the point. A mirror isn't meant to flatter. It's meant to show. So how do you start to see clearly? You begin by remembering. Keep a dream journal. Write down the fragments, the feelings, the faces. Don't wait for them to make sense. They won't. Not at first. But over time, you'll see the threads. You'll see how your mind returns to the same themes, the same fears, the same symbols. You'll begin to recognize yourself. Then ask questions. What is this dream trying to show me? What am I avoiding? What truth is screaming behind this imagery? Treat each dream like a conversation with the self you've locked away. And slowly, something profound will happen. The mask you wear by day will start to crack. Not in destruction, but in honesty. You'll become more aligned, more awake, even in waking life. Because once you've seen your true reflection, you can't unsee it. You can't pretend you don't know. And that is the power of the sleeper's mirror. It is not entertainment. It is not illusion. It is revelation. The dream world is not where your imagination runs wild. It's where your truth roams free. It's where your mind takes off its chains and shows you who you really are. Unmasked, unfiltered, unchained. So tonight, when you close your eyes and feel yourself falling inward, don't resist. Let go. Drift into the mirror. Watch what rises. Feel what stirs. And when you wake, remember, because your dreams are not fiction, they are you. Nightmare nesting. Drenched in sweat, gasping for air, you sit up, heart pounding. The nightmare is over. Or so you think. You reach for the light switch and flick it on, but something's wrong. The room looks off. The walls ripple like heat waves. The clock's numbers drip like wax. Then it hits you. You never woke up at all. You're still dreaming. And now the fear doubles back, stronger, deeper, stranger. That's the horror of nightmare nesting. Not just a bad dream, but a trap. A psychological labyrinth where every awakening is a lie. Each exit folds into another layer, like a Russian doll built from dread. False awakenings, they call them. Moments when you truly believe you've escaped, only to discover you've been pulled into another illusion, wearing the mask of safety. With every layer, the panic builds. Not because of monsters or mayhem, but because the boundary between dream and reality dissolves. And when that line goes, so does your sense of self. This isn't fiction. Lucid dreamers, trauma survivors, and sleep researchers all speak of it. And if it's ever happened to you, you know the dread, the fear that there's no waking up. That maybe, even now, you're still dreaming. Why does it happen? Science hasn't pinned it down completely, but one theory lies in how the brain processes consciousness during REM sleep. Normally, the dream world and the waking world are kept in separate mental drawers. But under stress, trauma, or disorders like narcolepsy and sleep paralysis, that system breaks down. The brain's reality check fails. You become conscious within the dream, but unaware that it is a dream. Then you wake up inside it again. And again, and again. It's the ultimate betrayal. Your mind, your most trusted compass, turning against you. Consider this. During a false awakening, your brain simulates the sensation of waking. You feel your sheets, hear the hum of your fan, see sunlight leaking through the blinds. But then, subtle fractures reveal themselves. A picture frame shows a memory that never happened. A loved one speaks in riddles. Your reflection has no eyes. These aren't just errors. They're clues, glitches in the simulation, echoes from a subconscious trying to wake you up. But the terror? It doesn't come from what you see. It comes from what you know. You're trapped. No one is coming. Your scream has no echo, and the rules no longer apply. Some dreamers describe the sensation as being buried alive inside themselves. Conscious, aware, powerless. Here's the terrifying truth. Fear in dreams doesn't obey logic. You can't outthink it. You can't argue your way out. You can't convince a nightmare that it's not real, because the nightmare believes in you more than you believe in reality. Nightmare nesting often emerges in people under extreme psychological pressure, burnout, depression, anxiety. When the mind doesn't get peace, it doesn't rest. It spirals inward, building prisons from fear. Take Laura, for example. She once experienced 12 false awakenings in one night. Each time, her bedroom returned slightly altered. One night, the door was on the wrong wall. Another, her dog spoke in her mother's voice. When she finally woke, if she ever truly did, she didn't trust her senses for a full day. That's what nightmare nesting does. It doesn't just haunt your sleep, it stains your waking life. So now ask yourself, how do you know you're awake right now? Look at your hands. Count your fingers. Check the time, twice. Does it shift? These are lucid dream checks, tests to pierce the veil. Because sometimes, the difference between dream and reality is so subtle, even the sharpest mind misses it. And here's what's worse. False awakenings can carry sensation. You can feel pain, cold, falling. You hear yourself scream. Your body may be still, but your brain believes the lie. And that belief makes it real. Panic doesn't break the spell. It feeds it. You leap from a window to wake yourself, and the dream swallows the fall. You scream for help, but the voice that comes is your own, answering back. You tear down the walls and find your room again behind them. Some scientists suggest nightmare nesting is the subconscious stress testing your perception. What do you accept as true? How much can be twisted before you notice? And if you fail, it doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human. Our minds are powerful simulators. And sometimes that power turns inward. But there's strange beauty in the horror. Because to survive such dreams is to touch the edge of your consciousness, to peer behind the curtain, to see what your mind is truly capable of. Some mystics believe false awakenings are spiritual thresholds, layers of the self, lessons wrapped in illusion. Every dream, a doorway. Every fear, a riddle. But only if you stop running. So next time, if there is a next time, pause. Breathe. Ask the dream, what are you trying to show me? Why am I still here? And maybe, just maybe, it will answer, not in words, but in symbols, in shadows, in lessons carved from fear. Because not all fear is meant to be fled. Some is meant to be understood. You wake up again. This time, the light is steady. The sounds are normal. Your breath feels real. But something in you hesitates. Is this truly the end? Or just another mask? Because nightmare nesting doesn't always end when you open your eyes. Sometimes, the deepest dream is the one we call life. And that is the scariest part of all. Nightmare's permission old key. Into territories the daylight refuses to touch. These journeys often lead us through shadows darker than any we might face when awake into nightmares, yet these unsettling, distressing even terrifying visions hold a profound and secretive purpose. Sometimes the mind must wound itself in dreams, confronting pain and fear hidden deep beneath layers of daylight denial. This is the concept we call nightmares permission, the mind's unspoken consent to hurt itself in sleep, processing trauma, grief, guilt, and fear. In ways the waking world forbids in daylight, our society instructs us relentlessly: smile, cope, endure. Emotions must be managed, pain, concealed, anxiety buried deep within the soul, but the human mind, complex and infinitely resilient, will not be denied forever. It finds an escape valve, a secret place within our dreams where all suppressed emotions rush forth like waters breaking through a dam. Imagine a man who seems strong, unshakable, by day a protector, a father, a leader. He bears a hidden guilt, one so profound and secretive he dare not whisper it even to himself, but as he sleeps his nightmares take him relentlessly back to that fateful night. He desperately wants to forget. The dream forces him to relive each excruciating moment, amplifying the pain beyond what waking reality ever did. He wakes trembling, sweating, heart racing, and yet somehow lighter, somehow freer. This torment, seemingly cruel, is the psyche granting him permission to feel, to confront, and to eventually heal. Science explains that nightmares are often trauma processing mechanisms, intense emotional rehearsals designed by our subconscious. Neurobiologists suggest nightmares activate parts of the brain responsible for memory, emotion, and learning, forcing us to confront what we actively avoid. During our waking lives, while asleep, we safely relive, rehearse, and re-experience traumatic events, each replay weakening their emotional hold. Soldiers returning from combat often report vivid nightmares where they relive battles, explosions, and the haunting faces of lost friends. Initially torturous, over time, these dreams act as psychological surgeries, gradually excising the shrapnel embedded in their emotional wounds. Consider grief, a universal yet deeply private agony. A woman loses someone she deeply loved. By day she must be brave, composed. Functional society allows only so many tears, only so much mourning, but at night her mind invites the lost loved one back into her dreams. Cruelly vivid, alive again for just moments before snatching them away, waking her into fresh tears. This cycle seems unbearably cruel, yet beneath the pain lies deep emotional work. Her subconscious forces acceptance, gently but unyieldingly demonstrating the harsh truth: the loved one is gone, but her love endures the repeated confrontation, eventually guides her toward acceptance and resilience. Dream researchers suggest nightmares are permission slips handed out by our subconscious, granting our psyche the rare opportunity to directly address unspoken fears and suppressed anxieties. Imagine a student crippled by anxiety preparing for exams. Under immense external pressure by day, they appear composed by night. Their dreams become stages for catastrophic failure, humiliation, and rejection. Overwhelming panic fills these visions, yet paradoxically, the repeated confrontation gradually robs the fear of its potency. Slowly they begin to wake, less shaken, more ready to face the waking world's demands. Now strangely less frightening because the nightmare already rehearsed the worst-case scenario. But why must dreams inflict such pain? Wouldn't it be simpler, kinder, to spare ourselves these nightly torments? The truth is, nightmares provide us what no other mechanism can: honesty. Utter, unfiltered honesty. Unlike our conscious minds, which rationalize, deny, or repress, our subconscious refuses deception. It brings forward truths we hide from ourselves. If trauma lurks beneath denial, nightmares break the silence. If guilt haunts beneath our masks, nightmares pull them off. They do not negotiate with our comfort. They prioritize our long-term healing, even if that means short-term suffering. Yet, nightmares are not always relentless torture. They also protect us. They offer safe environments to experience and process profound distress without the consequences of reality. A young woman terrified of speaking her truth to abusive family members dreams vividly of confrontation in her nightmare. She endures shouting, abandonment, and emotional devastation. She wakes crying, but gradually realizes something essential: the nightmare showed her she could survive even the worst outcome. The pain was real, but temporary. Nightmares provided her a laboratory, a rehearsal space where consequences vanish upon waking. Now empowered by that frightening, yet ultimately safe practice, she can face reality with newfound courage. From ancient cultures to modern therapy, humans have recognized nightmares' hidden value. Ancient civilizations viewed nightmares as prophetic warnings or spiritual challenges, believing they held hidden lessons that must be confronted, deciphered, and resolved. Modern psychology, though scientifically grounded, acknowledges the same hidden value. Nightmares expose the hidden fault lines of our emotional landscape, demanding attention, resolution, and ultimately healing. But the permission nightmares grant is a double-edged sword. Without proper understanding, these nightly orals can overwhelm us, spiraling into relentless anxiety and distress. Chronic nightmares can trap individuals in loops of endless fear, insomnia, or despair. Thus, recognizing nightmares as allies rather than enemies is crucial. When we understand nightmares as signals rather than punishments, we can begin interpreting their lessons, harnessing their messages for personal growth rather than surrendering to their terror. Therein lies nightmares' permissions. Ultimate wisdom. Dreams hurt us because they love us, because they refuse to leave us buried under denial. Painful though these visions might be, they are intimate expressions of our psyche's profound wisdom, gifts wrapped in darkness, bitter yet necessary medicines for the wounds we otherwise refuse to acknowledge. Dreams, through their terror, teach us resilience, acceptance, and strength. They instruct us brutally honest that our suppressed fears are survivable, our hidden pains manageable, and our secret guilts forgivable. So when you next awaken shaking from a nightmare, remember, you have been given permission not merely to suffer, but to heal. Ask yourself gently, what truth is this dream urging me to confront? What pain am I avoiding in my waking life? Within the answers, you'll find pathways toward healing. Nightmares guide us, cruel yet compassionate, dark yet illuminating, toward emotional truths we desperately need. Ultimately, nightmares' permission is humanity's quiet, hidden wisdom whispering to us, through our deepest darkness, you are stronger than your fears. Face them here now in safety and awaken healed, because sometimes the mind must indeed hurt itself in dreams to finally heal in the waking world. Eden effect. You open your eyes for one nightmare's oracle, breath caught in your throat, drenched in sweat. We call them nightmares. We label them as terrors of the mind, subconscious chaos clawing at our sanity. But what if we've misunderstood them entirely? What if these fear-soaked visions aren't designed to torment, but to teach? What if nightmares are not curses, but coded instructions? ancient survival maps passed down through neural circuitry to warn us, protect us, sharpen us. Imagine your brain as an ancient sentinel, a watchtower standing tall through millions of years of evolution. Long before civilization, before language, before memory as we know it, there was the need to survive. The brain learned to detect danger long before it learned to write poetry. And nightmares, in all their brutal honesty, may be the most primal and effective software ever written by nature. A defense system shaped in darkness, honed in fear. Modern neuroscience tells us nightmares often arise from the amygdala, the brain's emotional core, the fear processor. This isn't coincidence. The amygdala doesn't just trigger fear. It archives it, replays it. It builds vivid simulations around it. When you dream of falling, of being chased, of drowning, of helplessness, your mind is running a fire drill. The emotions you feel, panic, dread, suffocation, aren't illusions. They are rehearsals. Recurring nightmares often revolve around primal threats, predators, natural disasters, violence, loss. Why? Because those were the threats our ancestors faced, threats that determined whether they lived to see the sunrise. Over generations, the brain evolved a strange and powerful tactic to rehearse those threats in sleep, increasing the chances of surviving them in life. Nightmares aren't failures of the mind. They're its training ground. This is where the threat simulation theory comes in, proposed by cognitive scientist Annie Ravanchuo. It suggests that dreaming evolved specifically to simulate threatening events, giving us a chance to practice our responses in a safe environment. In nightmares, the danger feels absolute, and yet you wake up unharmed but changed. Because your brain just filed a lesson in survival. Etched deeper, because it was written in fear. And it doesn't stop there. Trauma survivors, those who've endured combat, accidents, or abuse, often report recurring nightmares. These aren't just random disturbances. They're the mind's urgent attempt to process unresolved fear, to rewire itself toward resilience. PTSD-related nightmares are brutal, yes, but they are also windows into a brain screaming, "Remember this. Understand it. Survive it next time." Yet, not all nightmares are born from direct trauma. Some arrive cloaked in symbolism, haunting visions of shadowy figures, collapsing buildings, endless mazes, teeth falling out. Terrifying, yes, because they reflect internal threats, emotional chaos, identity collapse, fear of the unknown. Nightmares become mirrors, revealing the fractures we refuse to face in daylight. A crumbling staircase may represent your vanishing sense of control. A faceless pursuer? The embodiment of your fear of failure. Carl Jung believed that dreams, especially nightmares, are messages from the collective unconscious, a deep reservoir of ancestral knowledge and archetypal truths. To Jung, a nightmare wasn't just stress, it was a call, a challenge to confront the shadow, the dark parts of yourself you've tried to bury. Only by facing these dream ghosts can you integrate them, understand them, grow stronger. Take a real-world example. A woman dreams her house is on fire, but she can never find the source of the flames. Eventually, she realizes she's been ignoring deep conflict in her relationship, something burning beneath the surface. The nightmare didn't just warn her. It diagnosed her. Or a man, trapped night after night in a flooding car. Each time, he drowns. He finally confronts the metaphor. He's emotionally drowning in a job he hates, but refuses to leave. The nightmare pushed him toward action. He quit, rebuilt, and found peace. The fear wasn't there to break him. It was there to guide him. Children, too, experience nightmares, often more vividly than adults. Evolutionarily, this may be a feature, not a flaw, a way to rapidly build situational awareness. A child dreaming of monsters under the bed isn't just learning about fantasy creatures. They're learning about threat, about the unknown, about caution. Even creativity owes a debt to nightmares. Mary Shelley dreamed of a scientist resurrecting the dead and awoke to write Frankenstein. Robert Louis Stevenson's vision of a man turning into a beast birthed Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. These weren't just horror stories. They were prophetic warnings about science without ethics, about the duality within us all. In our digital age, numbed by screens, noise, and overstimulation, nightmares might matter more than ever. They are one of the few places where truth still breaks through. They interrupt. They disrupt. They confront us. And maybe that's why we dread them. Because they pierce our illusion of safety and whisper something primal. You are not safe. But you can be ready. You see, nightmares don't have to be understood to be useful. Just like pain shows where the body is wounded, nightmares reveal where the psyche is strained, fractured, threatened. They don't speak in language. They speak in metaphor, in emotion, in distortion. But if you dare to listen, to reflect, then every nightmare becomes a map, a guide, an oracle. So next time you jolt awake, heart pounding, lungs gasping, don't dismiss it. Don't drown it in distraction. Write it down. Explore it. What chased you? What burned? What collapsed? What were you trying to protect? Because within that terror, there may lie a coded message, written by your most ancient self, a blueprint for survival, whispered in the language of fear. Nightmares are not your enemies. They are your oldest guardians. And sometimes, what terrifies you in sleep may be the only thing trying to keep you alive. Sleepwalker's paradox. It's the middle of the night. Your heart is racing, not from fear, but because you've just come back from somewhere else. A place thick with color, emotion, and meaning. A dream so vivid, so layered, that waking reality feels like a faded photocopy by comparison. In that other world, you felt the rain soak into your skin. You wept. You laughed. You fell in love. You remembered faces that don't exist here, but you knew them deeply. Now, back in bed, surrounded by the dull hum of a motionless room, one question starts to gnaw at you. What if that world was more real than this one? What if we've been sleepwalking through what we call reality, and only awaken when we dream? This is the sleepwalker's paradox, the idea that if a dream feels more authentic than waking life, we are forced to ask which state truly holds the seed of consciousness. And while that may sound like poetic nonsense, this question has tormented philosophers, scientists, and mystics alike for centuries. Strip away the assumptions, and a single unsettling truth remains. We don't actually know what real is. Consider the mechanics of consciousness. In waking life, we collect sensory data, billions of bits per second, filtered through the brain. But in dreams, especially lucid ones, we generate whole worlds without any external input. You can hear a song that doesn't exist, walk through a city that was never built, live a life you've never known. And yet, it feels real, sometimes more real than anything waking life can offer. Descartes famously struggled with this dilemma. I think, therefore I am. Yet even he feared that all he knew could be a dream conjured by a deceiving demon. Fast forward to now, neuroscience tells us the brain in REM sleep is as active, sometimes more active, than during waking consciousness. The visual cortex lights up. Emotional centers flare. Only the prefrontal cortex, the rational gatekeeper, is quieted. This is why dreams feel so intense and yet defy logic. But what if logic isn't a requirement for truth? What if emotional truth, the kind that leaves us trembling, is more valid than the structured illusions of daylight? Imagine this. A man dreams of his dead mother. She smiles, touches his face, says, "You're doing okay." He wakes up crying, and healed in a way therapy never reached. Nothing real happened, and yet something did. The grief eased. The burden shifted. Was that dream not real? If hallucinations can bring us truth, why should they be dismissed simply because they occurred in a different state of consciousness? We trust the waking world because it's consistent. It plays by rules, gravity, time, cause and effect. But dreams? Dreams bypass those rules. They speak in metaphors, symbols, raw emotion. They often reveal what we're unwilling to admit. A woman dreams of walking through a locked door to her childhood room. Eventually, she remembers a memory she repressed. The dream did what the waking mind refused. Again, was that not real? Here's where the paradox tightens. If dreams can shift our behavior, alter our emotions, reshape our perception, how can we say they're not real? Reality isn't made of atoms alone. It's made of experience. And experience is always, undeniably, subjective. Now layer this with the simulation hypothesis. Thinkers like Nick Bostrom have proposed that advanced civilizations could simulate entire realities. If that's true, we could be living in one right now. So, if waking life is a simulation, then what is a dream? A dream within a dream? Or the only time we break free? Spiritual traditions have long suggested the latter. From Tibetan Buddhists to indigenous shamans, dreams are seen not as illusions, but gateways, portals into other planes. Some call it astral travel, others ancestral memory. The aboriginal dream time is considered the true reality from which this one emerged. Lucid dreaming pushes this even further. The moment you realize you are dreaming, something astonishing happens. You become powerful. You can shape the world around you. Fly. Speak to imagined gods. Walk into a void and feel the universe exhale. You are not just conscious in that realm, you are divine in it. So what if this, what you call your life, is a dream you haven't yet become lucid within? What if awakening isn't about going to sleep, but remembering that you're dreaming right now? Some who have achieved waking lucidity report strange shifts. Time slows, colors brighten, the air feels alive. The veil thins, the boundary crumbles, and what remains is the only question that matters. What am I really? Because if you cannot define reality without your own perception, and perception can be simulated or deceived, then real becomes fluid. And maybe the truest form of consciousness is the one that can navigate either world and still ask the questions. The sleepwalker's paradox is not a novelty. It is a test, a riddle left behind by something deeper. It forces us to confront the terrifying possibility we don't know where we are. And that's where the next truth begins. Astral erosion. What if dreams don't just happen to us, but we happen to them? Every time you visit the same dream again, a city you've never seen, a forest you return to, a face that calls to you. What if you're not just remembering, but re-entering? And what if each visit leaves a mark? This is the idea of astral erosion, the gradual wearing down of dimensional boundaries through repeated dream exposure. Every recurring dream is a kind of pilgrimage, each return leaving behind a footprint, a subtle scar on the fabric of time and space. We think of dreams as mental static. But what if they're portals? What if those recurring places in your dreams aren't symbols of your subconscious, but actual locations in parallel dimensions? And every time you go there, you thin the veil. Your presence rubs against the fabric of that world, eroding the separation. That erosion doesn't vanish when you wake. It lingers. It distorts. It bleeds into this world. Ever felt déjà vu so strong it made your skin crawl? Met someone new who already felt ancient to your soul? That's not coincidence. That's erosion. It doesn't just link worlds. It merges them. And sometimes, if you go back too many times, your waking world starts to warp. A song you heard in a dream plays on the radio. A city street bends in a way it shouldn't. You begin to remember things that didn't happen here, but happened somewhere. Astral erosion is the slow unzipping of dimensional seams. And it doesn't ask permission. But what happens when you go too far? Sleep code hypothesis. The sleep code hypothesis suggests this. When you close your eyes at night, your body rests, but your mind doesn't. In fact, it begins one of its most complex, most essential operations. Not dreaming for fantasy, dreaming for survival. According to this hypothesis, dreams aren't random hallucinations or cryptic prophecies. They're more like your brain running nightly maintenance scripts. A deep, neurological defragmentation process. While you sleep, your mind compresses memory, prioritizes importance, deletes irrelevance, and reshapes experience into something usable. Dreams are code, and every night, you rewrite the software of your soul. Let's strip that down. Every day, your brain absorbs far more information than you could ever consciously use. Sights, sounds, smells, conversations, emotions, background noise, fleeting thoughts, mental detours. All of it pours in, but not all of it matters. Much like a computer piling up useless cache files and fragmented temporary data, your brain accumulates cognitive clutter. If it didn't purge, organize, and compress that data, you'd wake each morning with a mind too heavy to function. Enter dreams, not as distractions or entertainment, but as silent system cleanup. Have you ever wondered why your dreams feel disjointed? You're in your childhood home, but it's also a spaceship. Your third-grade teacher is cooking eggs with your ex. Your phone melts into sand. None of it makes logical sense, because logic isn't the point. Your brain isn't entertaining you. It's extracting meaning from chaos. During REM sleep, your brain performs memory consolidation, shifting data from short-term holding to long-term archives, deleting duplicates, strengthening relevant associations, even rewriting context. It does this not with text or files, but symbolically, emotionally, visually. So instead of files moving across a screen, you see metaphors. You feel echoes. You live through strange, emotional simulations. All of it happens behind the curtain of consciousness. The result? A mind rebooted, lighter, sharper, and ready to face another day. Think about this. You meet dozens of people every week. Most faces fade, but one conversation lingers. Why? Because your brain tagged it during dream compression. Maybe it introduced new data. Maybe it reawakened a buried emotion. Maybe it quietly altered your worldview. The sleep code hypothesis suggests that dream algorithms reprocess key emotional data and install it into your waking narrative. That data now subtly steers your decisions without you ever noticing. But not everything is saved. In fact, most of it is discarded. That's why you don't remember every detail of last Tuesday. That's why you forget most songs, faces, and passing thoughts. Your brain isn't sentimental. It's surgical. It cuts. It trims. It compresses. And sometimes it glitches. Ever wake from a dream that shook you? Not because it was scary, but because it felt like a warning or a memory that didn't belong to you. That might be your brain cross-wiring emotional data. When trauma, stress, or unresolved feelings flood your system, your mind struggles to organize them cleanly. So it fuses unrelated moments. It creates surreal mashups. It forms vivid dream sequences because it doesn't know what else to do with the overflow. You wake up haunted because your mind showed you something it couldn't verbalize. Let's go deeper. If dreams are compression algorithms, then recurring dreams might be corrupted files. They keep resurfacing because the brain can't resolve them. Something in your life keeps triggering the same loop. The elevator that never reaches the top. The teeth falling out. The same argument again and again. These are emotional recursion loops, your mind rerunning broken code, searching for resolution. Sometimes it never finds one. That's why the dream doesn't change. But what if you could decode the compression process? Lucid dreamers already do. They gain awareness mid-defragmentation. They alter the scripts as they run. That's like opening a program while it installs and rewriting the source code on the fly. Risky, powerful, sometimes profound, sometimes destabilizing. There are documented cases of people using lucid dreams to confront trauma, rehearse hard conversations, even resolve deep psychological conflicts. The dream world is a simulation sandbox, a virtual reality of the self. Enter it with intention, and you become both user and programmer. But most of us, we're passive dreamers. We let the nightly scripts run. We wake up changed and never know what was rewritten. Now here's the question nobody wants to ask. If dreams are just memory compression, are we just machines? The sleep code hypothesis walks that razor's edge. It doesn't reduce you to an algorithm, but it does suggest that much of what you call self is actually a product of unseen editing. You are not just your experiences. You are the compression of those experiences. You are not your past. You are the filtered, curated, rewritten version of that past. And every night, you're updated, debugged, slightly altered. Every morning, you wake up as a new version of yourself. Now consider this. If someone could intercept your dream code, if they could access, edit, or inject symbols into your nightly maintenance scripts, they wouldn't need to brainwash you while awake. They could change you from the inside. While you're most vulnerable, most malleable, most open. This isn't science fiction. Military research, psychological experiments, and even advertising studies have explored dream manipulation. Because what you dream can change what you buy, what you believe, who you fear, who you love. The dream isn't just a mirror. It's a forge. Still think dreams are meaningless? Studies show that when we don't dream, or more accurately, when we're deprived of REM sleep, we experience emotional instability, memory breakdowns, and hallucinations. We unravel. The brain needs to dream, not to rest, to repair, to process, to survive. So the next time you dismiss your dreams as nonsense, remember this. Your mind is speaking to itself in code. Every symbol, every echo, every surreal image, all part of an invisible compression script sculpting you into someone new. And if you pay attention, really pay attention, you might start to notice the patterns. The compression logs, the emotional bugs, the recursion loops, the glitches. You might begin to understand the language of the self in maintenance. Because dreams aren't random. They're scripts. They're code, and you are the machine running them. The observer paradox of dreams. If the dream is a script and you're the machine, who, then, is the observer? When you wake up remembering, someone saw the dream. Someone watched the defragmentation. The paradox is this. You are both the dreamer and the dreamed, the editor and the edited, the code and the consciousness interpreting it. Which begs the final question. If you can observe the code rewriting you, who is watching the watcher? Dream persona displacement. You're in a dream, walking down a street you've never seen before. The sky is an unfamiliar shade of blue. The air is heavier than it should be. People pass you by, speaking languages you don't understand. And yet, you are present, aware. You feel the rhythm of your breath, the beat of your heart, the thought behind your thought. Then something shifts. You glance into a mirror, or catch your reflection in a window, and the person staring back isn't you. Not the you know, but somehow, impossibly, it's still you. This is dream persona displacement, a phenomenon where you inhabit a dream through the body, the voice, the story of someone else. Sometimes it's subtle. You're just slightly taller, or older, or braver. Other times, it's jarring. You're a different gender, a different ethnicity, a different being entirely. And yet, the awareness at the center remains. You are not lost. You are just different. But why? Why does the dreaming mind trade your identity like a costume? Maybe that's all identity really is. A costume, a mask, a convenient interface consciousness wears to explore experience. Let's break it down. In waking life, our sense of self is built from layers. Our name, our memories, our voice, our body, our relationships. But in dreams, these anchors fall away. You don't need a passport in a dream. You don't need a history. You don't even need you. The dream self is fluid. It morphs without resistance. One moment, you're a child. The next, a warrior. The next, a stranger on a world with no sky. And yet each identity feels valid, because in dreams, the boundary between self and story collapses. Neurologically, this makes sense. During REM sleep, parts of the prefrontal cortex, the regions responsible for self-reflection, logic, and critical thinking, go offline. With those circuits dimmed, the mind is free to wander, free to become. It draws from memory, desire, fear, archetype, myth. It stitches these fragments into temporary vessels, dream avatars, and sends us in, not to observe, but to live. What's profound is this. Even when stripped of our usual identity markers, the sense of I remains. A raw, unfiltered presence. This reveals something deep. Identity is not the source of consciousness. It is merely one of its masks. Think of consciousness as light. In waking life, that light shines through the prism of your everyday self. But in dreams, the prism shifts. It becomes a stranger's face, a child's voice, a god. The light doesn't change. Only the lens does. And sometimes, the dream removes the lens entirely. To remind you, you are not the mask. You are the light behind it. This is called ego dissolution. It shows up in dreams, deep meditation, psychedelic journeys. The experience of awareness without a fixed identity. It's not a glitch. It's a glimpse, a test, a liberation. Imagine a man who dreams of being a young girl running through a burning village. He feels her fear, her smallness, her skin blistering from the heat. He wakes up crying. He's never been that girl. But in the dream, he was. Was it just metaphor? Or did his consciousness merge with another version of itself, an alternate life, a different strand of the multiverse? Some theorists suggest that in dreams, we briefly intersect with parallel versions of ourselves. That what we call dreaming might be crosstalk between dimensions, borrowing another life, another perspective. If consciousness is not locked in the body, if it is quantum, field-based, holographic, then why wouldn't it drift? Why wouldn't it explore? Carl Jung spoke of the collective unconscious, a shared psychic reservoir filled with archetypes, symbols, and stories. In dreams, we don't just become individuals. We become roles. The hero, the orphan, the mother, the trickster. These are not personal. They are primordial. They belong to all of us. And when we dream them, we tap into something older than personality. We become the story and the storyteller. It's no accident that ancient traditions describe the self as illusion. In Hinduism, it's Maya, a veil that conceals the universal self. In Buddhism, The self is a mental construct, a tool, but not truth. And dreams make this experiential. They show us, you are not your story. Because if you can dream as someone else, feel their fear, their love, their breath, and still know that you are present, then identity is not essential. It's just context. So what's left when the context is gone? Pure awareness. Untethered. Unfinished. Free. And maybe that's your truest self. Here lies the secret within dream persona displacement. You are not as fixed as you think. Yourself is not one thing. It's a shapeshifter. A dance. An echo wearing masks in the theater of the mind. The more foreign the dream identity, the closer you come to the truth. Identity is fictional. What's real is the observer. The presence behind the eyes, no matter whose eyes they are. So the next time you wake from a dream where you were someone else, don't dismiss it. Ask, what was that version of me trying to teach? Was it a memory from another life? A buried emotion? A power I haven't yet claimed? Maybe it was healing you. Maybe it was warning you. Or maybe, just maybe, it gave you a moment of freedom from the narrative you normally wear. Because if you can be someone else in a dream and still feel yourself behind their eyes, then empathy isn't imagination. It's remembrance of who you once were, or who you still are, somewhere else. Dreams don't lie. They just speak in masks. And every time you become someone new, your consciousness is whispering a truth older than your name. You are not the role. You are not the face. You are the light behind it. Watching, wondering, becoming. Dream detour theory. There are moments in life when we make choices so subtle, so instinctive, that we don't even realize we're standing at a crossroads. A missed train, a conversation left unsaid, a job not taken, a door never opened. We move on unaware. But what if those split-second decisions don't simply vanish into the void of what could have been? What if they take shape elsewhere, quietly, building entire realities that nearly existed, but didn't? And what if, when we sleep, our minds drift into those alternate versions of ourselves, ghost lives branching from the root of our own? Welcome to the dream detour theory. The idea that every dream is not random, not meaningless, but a glimpse into a discarded timeline. A failed version of reality. One that time rejected, but your consciousness never quite forgot. When you sleep, your body rests. But your mind does not. It continues, unbounded, curious, untethered by linear time. It creates landscapes, stories, emotions, sometimes foreign, sometimes eerily familiar, and often hauntingly specific. Why do you wake up with memories of cities you've never seen, faces you've never met, or grief for someone who never existed in this life? Because perhaps they did exist, just not here. Not now. Imagine time not as a straight line, but as a vast, branching tree. Every moment you live, every decision you make, every hesitation or leap causes a split. One path continues as your present. The others fade, or so we assume. But what if those dead branches, the unrealized paths, aren't dead at all? What if they are preserved in the shadows of existence, still echoing with potential? And what if sleep is the bridge your mind crosses to visit them? There are countless stories, more than coincidence would allow, of people dreaming entire lives. A man closes his eyes for what seems like a night and wakes with the memory of decades lived, a marriage, a career, a city that doesn't exist on any map. And yet the feelings are real. The loss is real. The joy, the nostalgia, the ache. People have woken from dreams mourning lovers they've never met, crying over children they never had, terrified of events that never happened. How do we explain this depth of feeling, this familiarity with the unreal? Unless somewhere, in some other corner of possibility, it did happen. Physics, specifically the many worlds interpretation, already suggests that every possible outcome does in fact occur in some parallel universe. An infinite spread of timelines. Every choice, every hesitation, every silence, each one births a new path. And though these realities are said to be separate, who's to say they don't brush up against each other, bleed through in the cracks of consciousness? Especially when the conscious mind is asleep and the dreaming mind is free to roam. Maybe dreams are not fabrications at all, but radio signals from those neighboring lives. That dream where you're married to someone else, living in a different city, with memories and emotions you know you never formed. Maybe that's not imagination. Maybe that's a detour. A road not taken, visited. Dreams feel broken because you are walking through collapsed timelines, unstable worlds, narratives that were never fully written, people whose faces flicker because their stories were never finished. But sometimes it all clicks. You return to the same place in your dreams night after night. You know the streets. You know the people. There are rules, systems, gravity. It has memory, continuity. That's not fantasy. That's recollection. It's as if your soul is mapping the entire maze of possibility, not just the single hallway you chose to walk. And each night, it peeks into the rooms it never got to live in. Some are beautiful. Some are terrifying. Some reveal versions of you that are barely recognizable, cruel, powerful, broken, redeemed. You might wake up shaken, thinking it was a nightmare. But what if it was a warning? What if it was a whisper from a discarded timeline reminding you of the cost it carried? Dream psychology sometimes suggests that dreams are simulations, hypothetical rehearsals, preparing you for possible futures. But dream detour theory goes further. It says you're not simulating. You're remembering. Your consciousness, unbound by time and sleep, moves sideways and backward through the branches of reality. It collects fragments, lessons, warnings. Think of those dreams that bring you clarity. You wake knowing what to do, knowing how to speak, how to love, how to heal. Maybe it's because another version of you already faced that moment, already learned what you now need. And in sleep, they pass the message back. A ghost from a timeline that no longer breathes, but still speaks. This isn't just speculation. It's rooted in something ancient and persistent. Something we feel when a dream lingers longer than it should, when its presence weighs more than the day behind us. Because perhaps our consciousness is not locked to a single path. Perhaps it stretches, reaches, bleeds through realities like a song echoing across a canyon. And maybe, when we sleep, we're not escaping life. We're exploring it. The forgotten corridors, the closed doors, the roads not taken. So what does that say about who we are? Are we this person, in this body, in this timeline? Or are we the chorus of all our possible selves, echoing through the multiverse? Is the person in your dream you? Or a version of you that still walks in a reality that never came to be? Maybe this is why some dreams feel so urgent, so insistent, as if they're trying to tell you something. Maybe they are. Maybe they're saying, I was almost real. You almost lived me. Don't forget what I saw. Dream detour theory invites us to see dreams not as nonsense, but as messages from versions of ourselves that lived and died in silence. Some trying to warn us, others trying to show us what we lost or what we still might find. So the next time you wake up breathless from a dream you can't explain, don't dismiss it. Listen, look deeper. Ask yourself, what path did I not take? What choice brought me here instead of there? Because maybe, just maybe, that dream wasn't fiction. It was a detour, a glimpse of a life you almost lived, a failed reality remembered in sleep, asking you to pay attention. Because in a universe of infinite choices, nothing is ever truly gone, only waiting to be dreamed again. Candle. Welcome to the chrono dream loop, where time doesn't flow, it dances. In waking life, time has meaning because events follow order. Light a candle, it burns. Jump, gravity pulls you down. Speak, your words travel forward into silence. But in dreams, these laws crumble like paper in fire. You can speak and hear your voice before your lips ever move. You can fall upward into a colorless sky. You can live an entire lifetime, age, wither, love, die, and then blink to find yourself 5 years old, back in a childhood bedroom that no longer exists. This isn't fantasy. It's a fundamental disruption of time's arrow. Why does this happen? Why, when we sleep, does our mind reject chronology? Perhaps because time as we know it is not a fixed law of the universe. It's a simulation, a scaffolding our brains erect from neural rhythms, internal clocks, and perceptual sequences. But during sleep, especially in REM, those rhythms unravel. The scaffolding collapses, and what's left behind is raw consciousness, adrift in a sea where before and after mean nothing. Take the recurring dream loop. You walk down a hallway, open a door, step through, and find yourself back at the beginning. Again and again. It's not just repetition. It's the collapse of linearity. Each iteration carries a different feeling, dread, déjà vu, awe. Sometimes, you know what's about to happen, not from memory, but because time has folded in on itself. You're looping. Your past, future, and present all at once. You're trapped in the infinite middle. Some people dream of events before they happen, a conversation, an accident, a death. And when they unfold in waking life, they're left stunned. Not because they predicted it, but because they already lived it. Precognitive dreams have been reported for centuries, across cultures and belief systems. Is it randomness? Or are dreams stepping us outside the linear stream, into the temporal ocean, where all moments exist at once? In that ocean, you can live 5 timelines in parallel. A child arguing with your parents. A teenager falling in love. Your current self, watching. A future self, warning. A stranger you don't recognize. Until you wake and realize it was always you. These moments don't line up. They overlap. They tangle. They react. Sometimes, a second in waking life stretches into an hour in the dream. Sometimes, 8 hours of sleep pass in the blink of dreamless white. Dreams don't tell time. They breathe it. Expanding, contracting, pausing, skipping, looping. But perhaps the most unsettling experience of all is the infinite dream loop. You go to sleep. Wake up, but something's wrong. You're still dreaming. You try to leave the room. Wake again. Still dreaming. It happens over and over. The furniture shifts. Colors change. But you never escape. Dozens of false awakenings. Each more convincing than the last. Some scream. Some cry. Some give up. This isn't fiction. It's documented. Repeated. Experienced. Is it a glitch in the sleeping brain? Or are you traversing layers of reality, stacked like pages in a book, with no clue which was the cover? The chronodream loop forces us to confront a terrifying possibility. That time, as we understand it, is an illusion, a comforting lie we tell ourselves while awake. Dreams reveal that consciousness does not need time. It simply is. And when unbound, it doesn't move through time. It moves across it. Like a spider skimming a web, consciousness touches moments from every angle. Think about those dreams that begin mid-action. No beginning, no explanation. Just you running, talking, crying. Then suddenly you're elsewhere, someone else. These aren't stories. They're loops. Isolated islands of experience. Floating in a sea of unanchored time. You are the boat. Your mind, the oar. And meaning, that elusive lighthouse, constantly shifting in the fog. Try to recall the sequence when you wake. It crumbles. The scenes rearrange. Did the fire happen before the scream? Was the city after the forest, or before? Someone died, but later they were alive. You watched a building collapse, only to find it whole. These contradictions aren't errors. They're features. Because in the loop, time is not your servant. It is your mirror. It reflects not external reality, but your emotions. Time races with fear. It slows in love. It breaks under trauma. In dreams, this isn't metaphor, it's architecture. So what does it mean for waking life? Could it be that time is not what we think it is? That dreams are brief glimpses into a deeper truth? A universe where time is flexible, optional, illusory? In quantum physics, certain equations don't care whether time moves forward or back. Some theories suggest particles communicate across time. That cause and effect are not linear, but woven. Could it be, then, that in sleep, your consciousness enters a quantum state, a non-local awareness untethered from the tyranny of the ticking clock? Here's the deeper fear. If time is unstable in dreams, how can we trust it here? What if the forward flow of time in waking life is a psychological defense, a necessary illusion to preserve sanity and continuity? Maybe time doesn't move forward at all. Maybe your mind is skipping between fixed moments, like a stylus bouncing across the grooves of a record. And maybe sleep, the dream, is the only time the needle lifts and lets you glimpse the whole song. So the next time you dream of falling only to land in your past, the next time you live and die in a single night, the next time you awaken a dozen times without waking, ask yourself this: what if the dream isn't broken? What if this world, with its ticking clocks and rigid seconds, is the real illusion? Because in the chronodream loop, there is no yesterday, there is no tomorrow, only the eternal now, reshaped with every heartbeat, rewound with every breath, and forgotten the moment you open your eyes. But it waits, and when you close them again, it will be there. The loop, the maze, the nonlinear orchestra of time, playing backward, sideways, forever. And you, dreamer, are the one who keeps listening. The sacred sleep hypothesis. You close your eyes at night and drift into darkness, assuming it's merely rest, a pause, unconscious and uneventful in the rhythm of living. But what if sleep is not an escape from the world? What if it's a return to it? Not a place where awareness fades, but where it finally awakens. The sacred sleep hypothesis dares to unravel that mystery. It proposes that sleep is not simply biological, it is spiritual. That dreams are not glitches in our mental machinery, but pilgrimages of the soul. That every dream is a temple, built not of stone, but of shadow and light, symbol and silence, holding truths your waking self has long forgotten. Throughout history, sleep was never seen as mere downtime. The ancients revered it. The Egyptians believed dreams were divine messages, whispered by gods in the sacred stillness of night. The Greeks built temples, Asclepions, where the sick would sleep, seeking healing visions from Asclepius, the god of medicine. To them, sleep wasn't rest. It was revelation. The Maya charted dream realms with the same precision they mapped the stars. For Tibetan Buddhists, sleep is a nightly rehearsal for death and rebirth. And across continents, indigenous shamans enter dreams to speak with spirits, ancestors, and unseen guides. These weren't hallucinations. They were journeys. Why did so many ancient cultures believe this? Because they listened. They didn't dismiss dreams as static or randomness. They recorded them, interpreted them, built rituals around them. They treated sleep as sacred. And maybe, just maybe, they were right. Modern science has dissected sleep into phases and frequencies, REM cycles, delta waves, melatonin. But it still cannot explain why a dream can leave you weeping, changed, illuminated in ways no waking moment ever has. Why do some dreams predict the future? Why do others restore long-lost memories? Why do people meet the dead and feel heard, not haunted? Because sleep isn't passive. It's a ritual, an ancient rite your soul performs night after night, stepping across unseen thresholds, searching for the divine. Imagine this. A man lies on a cold stone floor in a temple thousands of years ago. Priests chant. Incense burns. The gods are invoked. He sleeps. In his dream, a radiant woman touches his wound. He awakens, healed. Was that just a dream? Or was that temple the portal, and sleep the ritual through which divine medicine was delivered? Fast forward to now. You fall asleep on your couch. No rituals. No chanting. Yet you dream of someone you lost long ago. They speak to you, not in fragments, but with perfect clarity. You wake, not confused, but whole. That was your temple, your sacred healing. The sacred sleep hypothesis challenges the modern mind to consider that dreams are not imagined, they're visited. That sleep is a crossing. That temples don't need stone walls when they're built in the soul. But why sleep? Why not just pray, meditate, or hallucinate? Because sleep silences the ego. It disables the gatekeeper. It opens the back door to the soul. In waking life, your rational mind filters and questions everything. It fears the symbolic. But in sleep, you see not what is logical, but what is true. In dreams, your language changes. Symbols become your script. Fire, water, stairways, animals, shadow figures, celestial voices. Each one a glyph. Each one a message. And these messages aren't just metaphorical, they're practical. Mathematicians have solved equations in their sleep. Artists have dreamt symphonies and masterpieces. Scientists have visualized structures that reason alone could not unlock. Why? Because in dreams, you tap into something older than logic. Something divine. Maybe it's your higher self. Maybe it's the collective unconscious. Or maybe, as the ancients believed, it is the gods themselves, speaking in the only language deep enough to reach us. Dream. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakens." But what if dreaming is the looking inside? A journey inward that leads upward. Sacred sleep is that journey, a nightly pilgrimage through memory, spirit, and eternity. Even nightmares fit this framework. They aren't malfunctions. They're initiations. Dark corridors of the temple you must walk before reaching the light. A dream of drowning might signal overwhelm. A recurring chase might reveal what you refuse to face. These aren't dreams. They're rites of passage. There are stories, whispers, of people living entire lives in a single night. Lovers, warriors, monks, mothers, entire identities played out before waking. Some called it reincarnation. Others called it madness. But what if it's neither? What if sleep is the only time the soul is free to wear other forms, to enter other temples, to remember itself from a different angle? One woman dreams every few years of an ancient library, vaulted ceilings, glowing books, a sea of candlelight. Each time she ventures deeper, reading pages written in a language she's never learned, but instantly understands. She feels something vast observing her, not judging, but instructing. She doesn't know where this library is, but she calls it her temple. She returns to it when her soul needs answers. Another man, drowning in grief, dreamt of a silent mountaintop monastery. A monk offered him tea and said, "You must learn to carry her absence with love, not wait." He awoke and wept. He had never been to a monastery, but he found peace there. That was his sacred space, and he reached it through sleep. Sleep is the most universal, accessible spiritual practice we have. Every night, regardless of belief or background, we enter the mystery. And yet, we treat it casually. We rush it, sedate it, forget it. But what if we remembered? What if you prepared for sleep like a pilgrim prepares for a holy journey? Cleared your mind, set intentions, asked questions, not as a routine, but as an offering. And when the dreams come, you greet them not as chaos, but as scripture, as prophecy, as mirrors carved in spirit. Sleep isn't death. It's rehearsal for transcendence. It's not unconsciousness. It's a deeper form of consciousness, cloaked in metaphor, woven with messages. And every dream, a step through that otherworldly temple. A temple only you can enter, only you can decode. The sacred sleep hypothesis is not just a belief. It's an invitation, a remembering, that we are not just bodies and minds. We are souls in transit. And dreams are our sacred maps, drawn in symbols, folded between breaths. So tonight, as you close your eyes, ask yourself, what temple will you enter? What wisdom waits behind your eyelids? What message have the stars, the ancestors, the divine, been waiting for you to slow down and receive? Sleep isn't where we forget. It's where we remember. Observer paradox of dreams. Have you ever had a dream so vivid, so real, that when you woke up, the world felt slightly off, as if you'd returned from somewhere more real than reality itself? You were there, living it, feeling the emotions, reacting to events. And yet, somewhere deep inside, you knew you weren't in control. You were more than a participant. You were the observer, the actor, and the author, all at once. But if you are all three, who's really writing this? Who's pulling the strings behind the curtain of your unconscious theater? And here's the unsettling part. What if they, whatever or whoever they are, have more control over you than you do? This is the observer paradox of dreams, the idea that within the dream state, you are the viewer, the protagonist, and the creator. Yet somehow, the events still surprise you. The dream unfolds as if authored by a stranger. You recognize the world. You recognize the emotions. But you don't remember writing the script. You try to change something, to wake up, to steer the narrative, but it slips through your fingers like smoke. You're aware, lucid even, but unable to swim against the current of the story. It's a riddle wrapped in the folds of your own psyche. If you're the one conjuring every detail, then why does it feel like you're not the one holding the pen? Sometimes you're inside the dream, living it. Other times, you see yourself from outside, watching from a distance like a phantom in the rafters. You respond to events, speak lines, feel fear or love, and still, you stand apart. It's as if you're both on the stage and in the audience at once, unable to control what comes next, yet intimately connected to it all. The lines blur. Creator and creation, subject and object, self and other. Take a moment. Think about a recurring dream you've had. Maybe it's a forgotten place from your childhood, a hallway that seems endless, a face you've never seen, but know somehow. Each time you return, the scene feels new. You respond to it as though encountering it for the first time. But deep inside, there's a whisper. I've been here before. Why do we continue to be surprised by stories we've already written? And then it gets stranger still. Have you ever dreamed of something before it happened? A conversation, a place, an event. In the dream, it seemed random, meaningless. But days later, when it unfolds in waking life, you're left speechless. You didn't plan it. You didn't know it. And yet you did. Where does that knowledge come from? How can your subconscious write scenes your conscious self hasn't lived yet? It gets more enigmatic when strangers appear in dreams, faces you've never seen in your waking life. But in the dream, they feel familiar. There's a shared history, a warmth, a memory that doesn't exist, at least not here. If you create every character in your dream, how do you explain that eerie déjà vu? Is your mind digging into forgotten fragments of real people? Or is it reaching into something else, something beyond your timeline? Maybe you're not just the author, but also a channel. Maybe the dream isn't created by your waking self at all, but by a deeper layer of consciousness, one that doesn't follow the rules of time, space, or identity. And here's the ultimate question. Do you control the dream, or does the dream control you? Some nights, you fly, conjure worlds, break the laws of reality. Other nights, you are trapped, pushed through mazes of regret, running from things you can't name, haunted by choices you never made. You try to rewrite the story, but the dream won't let you. You try to wake up, but the dream won't release you. This loss of agency, even in a world of your own creation, is the heart of the observer paradox. If you are the one dreaming, why can't you take control? Unless, maybe the dream isn't just yours. Maybe it's influenced by something greater, a higher self, a collective unconscious, a future version of you, trying to send a message back through the veil, or something else. What if dreams are more than echoes of your psyche? What if they are transmissions, messages written in a language your waking mind can't read? What if your dreams are how the universe speaks through you when you're not looking? In this light, you are the author, yes, but also the receiver, the vessel, the oracle. Your dreams might be more than your own thoughts. They could be fragments of a larger story, sent through the cracks in your consciousness, waiting to be remembered. The observer paradox of dreams asks us to reconsider everything we think we know about the mind, time, identity, and control. You are the dreamer. You are the observer. You are the message. So next time you drift beyond the veil, remember, the story may be yours, but it was never just yours. And somewhere in the darkness, the author is still writing. Reversed dream logic. What if everything we call reality, the world we see, the people we know, the choices we make, isn't reality at all? What if this waking life is the dream, a polished illusion crafted by the mind to protect us from something far more primal, far more terrifying? What if nightmares, the chaotic, irrational, terrifying visions that erupt in our sleep, are not distortions of reality, but reality itself? What if they are the truth, raw and undiluted, clawing at the fragile veil of consciousness we hide behind? This is the essence of reversed dream logic, the idea that the waking world is the dream, and the dream, especially the nightmare, is the truth we're too fragile to confront. Think about how dreams work. Time skips, places shift, people morph, logic collapses. You fall endlessly only to land gently. You die and yet remain. You meet strangers who feel like old friends, navigate impossible architectures, and experience emotional extremes without context. None of it makes rational sense, yet in the moment, it feels real. Now consider waking life. Structured, predictable, defined by rules. A reality with traffic lights, job titles, time zones, clocks ticking in straight lines. But what if that structure is artificial? What if it's a filter, an interface, through which the mind makes existence bearable? A sanitized simulation overlaid on the infinite chaos of being. In this framework, our waking life becomes the sedated dream, a curated experience, a program designed not to reveal, but to protect. And nightmares? They are breaches in the system. Moments when the filter fails and something ancient, unfiltered, and unbearable leaks through. In them, we confront fear, not because nightmares are distortions, but because they are revealing. They are mirrors, not hallucinations. In nightmares, there is no control. You are pursued, cornered, swallowed by something you can't name. Time loops, space warps, meaning disintegrates. But the emotion, fear, despair, vulnerability, feels true. Because it is. What if consciousness, our sacred ability to be awake, is not a path to truth, but a defense mechanism? What if logic, reason, causality, identity, these are not discoveries, but inventions designed to keep us sane? Consider déjà vu, that eerie flicker of familiarity in a place you've never been, or moments of dread that arrive uninvited, unexplainable, or the strange sensation that time has skipped, fractured, or folded in on itself. These are fractures in the dream, glimpses of what lies underneath. evidence that something deeper, stranger, and more real is always pressing at the edges. We are taught to trust the waking world, to conform, to play by the rules of physics, time, and language. But what if those rules are the lie? What if dreaming is not escape, but exposure? In dreams, especially in nightmares, we encounter the unspeakable, the trauma, the desire, the chaos. We become both the actor and the observer, the monster and the victim. We bend space, dissolve identity, and hover outside time. And we feel something real. Because the nightmare is not unreal, it's just unfiltered. It is the mind without its mask, the world without its narrative, reality without sedation. So maybe we've had it backwards all along. Maybe the dream is the cage, and the nightmare is the key. Maybe the truth isn't beautiful or serene, but chaotic and overwhelming. Too intense to perceive for long, so we compress it. We distort it. We bury it beneath alarm clocks and mortgages and weather forecasts. But it waits, beneath our routines, beneath our smiles, beneath the thin membrane of logic that keeps us afloat. It waits. The next time you dream, especially when you dream of falling, of running, of shadows that whisper and chase, don't dismiss it. Don't file it away as a neurological glitch or evolutionary quirk. Listen, because the nightmare might be the only time you're truly seeing. And when you wake, remember this. Reality is the dream, and the nightmare is the truth, lurking like an infernal theater behind the stage curtains of our minds, ready to show us the unedited performance. When night falls and our eyes finally close, the cosmic Sandman, eyes drift shut, and somewhere between consciousness and oblivion, something extraordinary begins to unfold. Ancient myths whispered of a figure, the Sandman, an otherworldly being who sprinkled dream dust into your eyes. From that stardust bloomed entire universes behind your eyelids. But what if it wasn't just a children's tale? What if dreams truly are stars collapsing into thoughts, constellations of meaning flickering in the dark caverns of your mind, shimmering with secrets older than your species? What if the cosmic Sandman is not a metaphor, but a forgotten truth, a fragment of primordial memory? How our dreams might actually be bridges to the cosmos itself. Across nearly every culture, Greek, Norse, Hindu, Native American, there are stories that bind dreams to the stars. Shamans believe that in sleep, we return to the place we came from, the void between stars. The Dogon tribe of Mali spoke of dreams as messages carried from Sirius B, a star invisible to the naked eye, until modern science confirmed its existence. The Mari people saw dreams as celestial voyages, journeys across rivers in the sky. These aren't disconnected mythologies. They are persistent echoes, scattered across time and geography, all whispering the same thing. That dreams may originate not within us, but far, far beyond us. Let's anchor this in science. Everything in your body, your bones, your blood, your brain, is made of atoms forged in the hearts of dying stars. You are, quite literally, stardust. But what if your mind carries more than just the physical residue of the cosmos? What if it retains a frequency, a tuning, a resonance with the stellar rhythms from which you were born? The cosmic Sandman theory suggests this. Dreams are not isolated neurological fireworks. They are transmissions, whispers carried on the fabric of space-time, received only when the static of waking life goes quiet. Some physicists speculate that consciousness may not be confined to the brain. Quantum theories of mind propose that consciousness could be entangled with the very architecture of the universe, threads in a vast, multidimensional web. If that's true, then dreams are not inner hallucinations. They are external signals. Think of your mind like a satellite dish. While awake, you're tuned to the material frequency. But in sleep, especially during REM, your mind shifts. It opens to another channel. Suddenly, you're receptive to waves of information, emotion, memory, and vision that ripple through the quantum field. What if those waves are starborn? Imagine a neutron star in a distant galaxy, spinning, pulsing, releasing gravitational ripples that distort and echo across space-time. By the time they reach Earth, they are faint, imperceptible. But your dreaming mind, freed from noise and logic, might be able to feel them, not consciously, but symbolically, emotionally, visually. A tunnel of light, a sound without a source, a figure made of shadow and fire who speaks in riddles. You call it imagination, but what if it was signal? In dreams, time doesn't behave the way it does here. You can live lifetimes in seconds. Recall futures that haven't happened. Visit memories you never made. What if this isn't neurological distortion, but evidence? Evidence that dreams pull you outside linear time. That the stardust in your brain is syncing, briefly, with something older, vaster. A galactic pulse. A universal archive. A consciousness so ancient, so enormous, that it cannot speak in words, only in dreams. This could explain why so many dreams feel mythic, archetypal. You're not just processing your day. You're tuning into stories older than yourself. The Sandman isn't sprinkling fantasy dust. He's downloading starglyphs, patterns, insights, coded messages. You see them as dreams, but they might be how the cosmos communicates with its children. The content of these dreams often defies logic. You walk through cities that don't exist but feel like home. You speak languages your mouth has never known. You witness the birth of worlds or their end. You talk with beings who radiate both love and terror. Where do these images come from? They don't match your waking life. And yet, they move you deeply, profoundly, as if your soul recognizes something your mind cannot name. That is the secret of the cosmic Sandman. He doesn't bring dreams. He reveals them. Dreams are not fantasy. They are memory. Star-coded memory. Cosmic empathy. The silent knowing that you are not separate from the universe. You are the universe, dreaming of itself. Children instinctively understand this, before we teach them otherwise. A child wakes and says, "I talked to a being made of stars." We smile and say it was make-believe, unaware they may have just described what mystics spent lifetimes seeking. Somewhere along the way, we forget. But the cosmic Sandman doesn't. He waits, every night, to pull you back to that truth. And there's something undeniably emotional about dreams that feel cosmic. People wake up weeping from visions of a home they can't name. They dream of places too beautiful to survive daylight. This isn't sentimentality. It's cosmic longing. The ache of being a fragment that remembers the whole. The dream didn't create the feeling. It unlocked it. And the implications go deeper still. If dreams are seeded by stars, if there is intent behind the signal, then maybe, just maybe, the universe is trying to guide us. Not through commandments, not through miracles, but through metaphor, through symbol, through moments so intimate and abstract they bypass all defenses and go straight to the soul. That dream where you forgive someone you couldn't in waking life. That image of a tree blooming from your chest. That endless staircase where you meet your own reflection. What if these are messages? Not from gods, but from the stars. The cosmic Sandman is not a bedtime story. He is a bridge between the human and the infinite, between what you are and what you came from. His purpose is not to amuse you. It is to awaken you, to let you taste, for just a few fleeting moments, what it feels like to remember everything you've ever been. A star, a spark, a story, a soul. So tonight, as you slip into sleep, don't treat your dreams like static. Listen, watch. What images are falling into you? What stars are whispering behind your thoughts? And if you find yourself in a place too vast to explain, a cathedral of light, a river of music, a silence that vibrates with knowing, then maybe, just maybe, the Sandman came after all. Maybe, he never left. Genetic memory leak. When dreams remember what you never lived. Stone streets soaked with rain. The scent of woods curling through the air. You walk with certainty, as if you've always known the way. You turn corners you've never turned. Speak languages you've never studied. And feel memories stirring that aren't yours. Then you wake. No passport stamp. No photographs. No history. But the emotional residue remains, clinging like fog. That dream wasn't fantasy. It was a memory. But not yours. Or at least, not from this life. This is the eerie proposition of genetic memory leak. The idea that ancestral memories, traumas, and experiences can bleed into your dreams. Passed down not symbolically, but literally, encoded in your DNA. These are dreams not born from your own biography, but from lives lived long before you. Echoes from generations past, whispering through the neural corridors of your mind. It may sound like science fiction, but the roots stretch deep into real science. Epigenetics, the study of how gene expression can change, without altering the DNA sequence itself, has already shown that trauma can be inherited. Children of Holocaust survivors exhibit altered stress hormone levels. Descendants of famine survivors display different metabolic and emotional responses. Fear, stress, even certain behaviors can travel like sealed envelopes through time. Messages locked in blood. But what happens when those envelopes are opened in sleep? Imagine a young woman in Canada dreams of hiding in an attic. Her breath shallow as footsteps echo below. She wakes up sobbing, heart racing. She's never studied World War II, never set foot in Europe. Yet, when shown photos of a concentration camp she's never heard of, she reacts with visceral recognition. Her grandmother fled Europe in the 1940s. She never spoke of what she saw. Could the terror she locked away have traveled across generations? Not in stories, but in dreams? Carl Jung once hinted at this possibility in his theory of the collective unconscious, a reservoir of archetypal memory shared by all humans. But modern science takes it further. In lab experiments, mice trained to fear a specific scent passed that fear to their pups. The young, never exposed to it before, showed the same terror. Their brains, literally rewired by a memory they never lived. Now scale that to the human mind. A labyrinth of complexity, flooded with ancestral echoes, fleeing wild animals, escaping war, falling in love during a plague, watching a village burn. These stories may lie dormant for decades, until the perfect storm of stress, emotion, and REM sleep unleashes them. The dreamer becomes the vessel. The dream becomes the message, and someone else's life is remembered through your sleeping mind. A man dreams, again and again, of a blood-soaked battlefield, swords clashing, armor crushing against his chest. He's never touched a weapon, but a long-dead ancestor once fought in an ancient war. His journal describing the exact terrain from the dream. Coincidence? Or inherited recall? And not all of these dreams arrive as fear. A woman dreams of a cottage garden, tending roses she's never planted. Later, she discovers her great-grandmother was a floral healer in a far-off village. A boy hums an ancient lullaby from his dreams, a tune his mother swears he was never taught, yet one her father sang decades ago. What if dreams are not internal monologues, but cross-generational broadcasts? Faint signals, still resonating through time. The body remembers, not just in scars or posture, but in the chemistry of memory itself. Muscles flinch at invisible threats. Hearts race at long-dead fears. Genes hold the fingerprints of grief and glory. Some researchers believe certain proteins in the brain may preserve epigenetic information, waiting for a trigger, a smell, a sound, a dream. And when REM sleep dissolves the border of waking reason, the psyche may slip, not backward in your timeline, but sideways into your lineage. That's why these dreams feel different. They are heavy. They are sacred. They change you. You wake not confused, but altered, as if your soul borrowed someone else's bones for a night and wore their wounds like skin. And therein lies the haunting beauty. If memory can survive death through DNA, then maybe nothing is ever truly lost. Maybe we are not just individuals. We are archives, living testaments, the culmination of everyone who came before, who dared to live, love, and suffer. Their triumphs echo in our instincts. Their heartbreak trembles in our dreams. It also raises a deeper question. If some dreams aren't yours, if they're genetic shadows, then who are you? Are you a singular self? Or the current narrator in a long, ancestral saga? One blink in the dark, trying to remember a life you never lived. Some dismiss these dreams. Others follow them. Through therapy, art, writing, ritual, shamans have long used dreams as bridges to heal ancestral wounds. Today, ancestral trauma therapy still begins with those whispers in sleep, breadcrumbs pointing to burdens not born in your lifetime, but ending there. So next time you find yourself in an unfamiliar city, speaking a language you never learned, standing at the edge of memory and myth, ask yourself, who walked here before me? What is trying to be remembered through me? Because not every dream is fantasy. Some are inheritances. Some are memory's final attempt to be seen, mourned, healed. Genetic memory leak is not just a theory. It's a quiet revolution, a reimagining of what it means to dream, to remember, to be human. Every night, the archives open, and our ancestors whisper. Sometimes they scream, sometimes they sing. And if you listen closely, through the haze of sleep, you may discover your dreams aren't dreams at all, but proof that time folds, memory survives, and blood remembers. The cosmic Sandman closes your eyes, and someone else's story begins. Cyclonic identity. You're standing in a room, but also watching yourself from the corner. You speak, but it's someone else's voice. You blink, and suddenly, you're not you anymore. You're the person you were just speaking to. Or maybe you're both. A third observer hovers above the scene. A fourth whispers thoughts you've never had. Yet somehow, they feel like yours. This isn't chaos. This isn't fragmentation. This is cyclonic identity, the storm of selves that swirls into being within the realm of dreams. And if you've ever become multiple people in a single dream, know this. You're not breaking apart. You're remembering how vast you really are. Modern psychology tells us the self is singular. One name, one face, one continuous thread from cradle to grave. But that's a simplification, a narrative convenience for waking life. In truth, the self is not a straight line. It is a cyclone, a swirling, shifting force of roles, voices, versions, and forgotten potentials. And dreams. Dreams are where that storm is allowed to rage. Freed from time, freed from ego, freed from the rigid mask you wear by daylight. Think back. You've dreamt as the hero, the villain, the child, the stranger. Sometimes you shift characters without noticing. Sometimes you watch yourself die and continue the dream from another's body. These aren't flaws in your mind's code. They are features. Because in sleep, your consciousness unhooks itself from a single narrative. It stretches. It spins. It remembers its range. There is no gravity in dreams to fix you in place. And when the tether of waking identity loosens, something ancient awakens. The truth that you are not a single point of view, but a kaleidoscope. Each fragment still you. Just refracted, exaggerated, explored. Cyclonic identity isn't splintering. It's remembering. From a neuroscientific lens, this mirrors what we see in REM sleep. Multiple regions, emotional, visual, autobiographical, lighting up like wildfires. The frontal lobe, keeper of logic and stable selfhood, dims. The result? A mind freed from the burden of coherence. A consciousness that no longer needs to make sense. It only needs to express truth. And truth, in its rawest form, is often contradictory. Have you ever felt ashamed of your dream self's actions, but also sympathy for the one harmed, and then became them? That's not confusion. That's empathy as identity. It's your subconscious blurring the line between self and other. Because deep down, those boundaries are artificial. You contain the capacity to become every role you judge, every archetype you admire, every version you fear. In dreams, you're not bound by biography. You can become someone you once knew, someone you imagined, someone you might one day be, or never. And sometimes, you are all of them at once. You argue with yourself using 3 voices. You run from a monster only to realize you are the monster. And you wake, not disturbed, but expanded. Not lost, but aware. Aware that identity is more fluid than we've been taught to believe. Cyclonic identity holds a deep truth about trauma and healing too. Many who've endured emotional wounds report dreams of multiplicity. A protector self, a wounded self, a furious self, a nurturing one. These aren't dissociative breakdowns. They're coping strategies. The dream becomes a council of selves, each one holding a part of the pain, each one ready to be seen, heard, and integrated. This isn't just poetic. It's therapeutic. In internal family systems therapy, patients meet their parts, protectors, inner children, exiles. But in dreams, your mind often does this instinctively. The angry part becomes the attacker. The scared part becomes the child you rescue. The wise part, a shadowed guide. These aren't fictions. They're truths wearing masks. And when acknowledged, they begin to harmonize. Let's not forget, creativity lives in multiplicity. Artists, writers, musicians, they often dream not of a story, but as the story, as the stage, as the sound, as the silence between beats. Cyclonic identity fuels creation. It allows the mind to melt form and embody emotion itself. You are the wave crashing, the whisper in the void, the dancer and the floor beneath them. You are every metaphor you've ever tried on, every myth you've ever lived through in dreamtime. We're taught to fear fragmentation, to cling to a fixed self, to hold on to the I. But cyclonic identity whispers something older. You've always been plural. Your mind is a vast auditorium filled with voices. Some familiar, some strange. And dreams are the stage where they finally sing without shame. And sometimes, just sometimes, the storm clears. You become all of them at once. Every past self, every possible self, every archetype, emotion, memory, and shadow, woven into a single, eternal now. And that feeling, that sudden, limitless awareness, is not madness. It is transcendence. Because maybe you are not a single flame. Maybe you are fire, wind, water, and song. All at once. Maybe your dream self remembers what your waking self forgets. That identity is not a prison. It is a symphony. So next time you become someone else in a dream, don't panic. Don't hold on too tightly. Let go. Let the cyclone spin you through its mirrors. Let it show you who you've been, who you are, who you could be. You are not fracturing. You are unfolding. And when you wake, maybe you'll carry back a thread of that storm. A quiet knowing. You are not one story. You are thousands. Not one person, but an orchestra of selves. And somewhere inside, they are still dreaming, still dancing, still whispering who you are and who you've always been. Sacred sleep. Cosmic echoes. When you close your eyes, you're not simply entering your imagination. You're stepping into an ancestral vault. A place where dreams are not random flickers of the mind, but transmissions, echoes, memories that whisper across the vast corridors of time. What if the visions that dance behind your eyelids aren't yours alone, but fragments of a cosmic archive embedded deep within your DNA? This isn't fiction. It's a theory grounded in a growing body of haunting, beautiful science. The idea that memory isn't just stored in brains. It's etched into biology. For decades, we believed genetic inheritance was limited to physical traits: eye color, bone structure, susceptibility to certain illnesses. But epigenetics, an evolving field of study, is now cracking open that certainty, revealing something stranger and far more profound. Traumas, instincts, even emotional imprints can be passed down, coded into the body like hidden runes. In one landmark study, mice subjected to electric shocks developed an intense fear of a particular scent. But here's the twist. Their offspring, never shocked, reacted with the same fear. These weren't learned responses, they were inherited, etched into their blood, carried like ghost stories from one generation to the next. Now stretch that idea further. Don't just think of inherited trauma. Think of inherited story. Imagine your ancestors' lives, wars fought, children born, migrations across ice and fire, sacred rituals whispered beneath dying stars. All of it still alive in you, trapped like light in amber, waiting. When you dream, you might be unlocking those pieces. Not metaphorically, literally. You may be decoding signals too ancient for words, too deep for waking logic. Have you ever woken breathless from a dream so vivid, so real, that it left you questioning whether you just remembered rather than imagined it? A war in a land you've never known. A dialect that doesn't exist. A face that watches you with recognition, though you've never met. That is where the cosmic echoes begin to speak. They don't use words. They speak in sensation, in myth, in flashes of lives submerged beneath your own. This isn't reincarnation. It's more visceral than that. It's not souls hopping timelines. It's biological mythology. Remnants of once-lived lives encoded in the helix of your being. The human genome is a vast manuscript, over 3 billion base pairs, written not in ink, but in time itself. Within it, there may be encrypted memories, dormant data waiting for altered states to bring them forth. Sleep, trance, meditation, near death. These are the keys to that vault. Which means your dreams might not be about you. They might be from others whose blood you carry. Even Carl Jung, long before the advent of molecular biology, intuited this idea. He called it the collective unconscious, a shared psychic reservoir populated by archetypes, the mother, the trickster, the shadow. But what if these aren't just metaphysical structures? What if they're neurobiological motifs, genetic blueprints passed down across eons, shaping not just culture, but inner worlds? There's a name for this: transgenerational epigenetic inheritance. But it's more than a theory. It's a revelation. A door cracked open. You are not just you. You are the sum of thousands. A living composite. A ghostly chorus echoing forward through time in a spiral of dreams and bloodlines. A 2014 study found that Holocaust survivors' trauma biologically altered their children's stress regulation. The pain of genocide didn't just mark minds, it rewrote the molecular score of their bodies. If horror can be passed down, so can awe, so can wonder. The spark of first fire, the sacred stillness of a lunar eclipse, the echo of a tribal chant lost to history but remembered in your sleep. Maybe this is why you sometimes wake in the middle of the night, overwhelmed by a grief that has no name, or feel a pull to a place you've never been, or hum a tune in your sleep that no one taught you. These aren't dreams, they're echoes. And what about déjà vu, the eerie certainty that you've lived a moment before? Perhaps it's not a glitch in memory but a flare of ancestral recall, a moment where genetic memory and conscious experience overlap, like mirrors reflecting mirrors, blurring the boundary of time itself. In that sense, every human is a living museum, and dreams are curators, guides through exhibits you didn't choose but desperately need to remember. There is something sacred in that idea, that when you sleep, you're not escaping the world, you're returning to it, to a version that existed long before you could name it. You may see temples of bone and fire, hear chants in extinct tongues, run through forests that have turned to dust. These are not hallucinations. They are remnants. They are truths. And the longer you live, the more echoes you carry. The more you dream, the more ancient songs you inherit. You are dreaming the dreams of everyone who came before you. And one day, someone will dream yours. That inexplicable fear of drowning? Perhaps it's your great-great-grandfather gasping beneath a capsized boat. Your obsession with stars? Maybe it's the memory of a long-dead ancestor gazing up at an untouched sky. That lullaby you hum in sleep? A fading refrain from a culture lost to time. But once, your blood danced to it. So next time a dream leaves you shaken, don't turn away. Listen. Listen closely. Because buried in the strangeness may be the remnants of your deepest identity, not as an individual, but as a vessel, an echo chamber of memory, a whispering vault of the ones who lived, who loved, who feared, and survived. You are not just dreaming. You are remembering. And some of those memories are older than civilization itself. Nightmares are oracles. Dreams are maps. And you are the archive. Candle of consciousness. Imagine a single candle burning in a vast, dark room. Its flame dances, flickering, unpredictable, alive. Now imagine that candle is your consciousness during a dream. A trembling beacon suspended between two worlds. One of memory, the other of meaning. Every night, when you surrender to sleep, that candle ignites. It burns quietly, not with heat, but with vision, with symbols, with echoes of things that may never have happened, yet feel more vivid than waking life. This is the candle of consciousness. And to understand its flickering, you must understand what dreams truly are. Dreams are not illusions. They are not nonsense. They are not chaos. They are translation. When the mind is stripped of sensory interference, it begins decoding internal languages we forget how to read during the day. While you sleep, your brain speaks in metaphors, rearranges reality, and burns through forgotten files you never knew you stored. Like a candle flickering in wind, dreams shimmer between the conscious and unconscious, sometimes casting clear shadows, sometimes slipping into smoke, but always speaking. If you know how to listen, science has tried to box dreams into biology, REM cycles, neurotransmitters, limbic system firing patterns. But those are the mechanics, the how. They do not explain the why. Why do you dream of falling from buildings you've never seen? Why does a single phrase from a stranger in a dream awaken grief from years ago? Why does the death of a dream character, someone you've never met, make you wake up in tears? Because dreams aren't about facts. They're about truth. And the candle of consciousness burns at the intersection where memory becomes emotion and emotion becomes meaning. The mind doesn't organize reality like a filing cabinet. It organizes it like a story. So when you sleep, it doesn't replay your day like a tape. It reinterprets it like a poem. Take a common dream. You're walking through your childhood home, but the walls are taller, the sky is red, and every door leads to the same room. That's not random. That's your mind distilling decades of nostalgia, fear, confusion, and loss into a spatial metaphor. The dream isn't just about where you came from. It's about what that place means to you now. A meaning that burns softly like candlelight. Not in linear logic, but in emotional resonance. Here's where it gets more intense. Some researchers propose that dreams are not merely private. They may be the flickering remnants of a deeper, universal process. The mind's attempt to refine consciousness itself. Through dreams, we aren't just processing events. We are shaping identity, solidifying the self. Fire has always been a symbol of transformation. And in sleep, the psyche undergoes alchemical change. Fear becomes confrontation. Longing becomes movement. Trauma, when dreamt through enough, might finally melt into release. Not instantly, not easily, but slowly, like wax dripping down a candle's side. There's a reason fire rituals exist in every ancient culture. Because fire was never just about heat. It was about focus, illumination, purification, and dreams serve the same purpose. Internal fire rituals conducted by your subconscious. Every nightmare you survive is a confrontation with shadow. Every luminous dream, where you fly, or glow, or touch the stars, is a rehearsal for becoming something more. Now consider this. The flame doesn't burn alone. It casts shadows. In dreams, these shadows often manifest as people, creatures, places we can't identify. The unknown, the unspoken. These shadows are not our enemies. They are the parts of ourselves we have not yet named. They approach us in sleep because our defenses are lowered. We're more honest when we dream, more exposed, and the mind takes that opportunity to introduce us to our forgotten selves. But just as quickly as they appear, they vanish. You wake up, the candle goes out, and the memory of what you just felt, so real, so intense, dissolves like mist. You reach for it, and it's gone. This is the nature of dreams. Real enough to burn, too soft to grasp. Like the flame itself. You can see it, feel its heat, but try to hold it in your hand, and it slips away. Leaves no shape behind, only warmth, maybe a scar, or sometimes just the scent of smoke in your sheets. People often dismiss dreams as fantasy because they don't obey physical rules. But that's the point. They obey emotional physics. In dreams, a hallway can be infinite if your grief is endless. A voice can echo for hours if your guilt is unresolved. And a single embrace can feel like salvation. If what you're missing most in life is human touch, dreams mirror the soul far more accurately than waking life ever can. Because they don't lie to protect you. Let's talk about the rarest kind of dream. The lucid flame. A moment when the candle grows brighter. And you know you are dreaming. You control the wind. You speak directly to the subconscious. These moments are rare because they require perfect balance. Too much awareness, and you wake. Too little, and you fall deeper into symbolic chaos. But in that fragile space, the flicker between knowing and feeling, you can ask your mind anything. And sometimes, if the flame is steady enough, it answers, not in words, but in impossible sights, revelations, wounds you didn't know you still carried, answers you were afraid to face. The candle of consciousness isn't just poetic. It's your inner truth teller, and it burns, whether you believe in it or not. Every night, it ignites. Every night, it shows you pieces of who you are, through images, through emotions, through collisions of memory and metaphor. You are not escaping reality when you dream. You are decoding it, processing what your daylight self cannot. And yes, sometimes it hurts. Sometimes the dream is a firestorm. Sometimes it reveals too much. But even then, it burns for a reason. Because even in chaos, there's clarity. Even in nightmares, there's a message. Even in sleep, your soul is working. So the next time you wake from a strange dream, don't shrug it off. Don't write it off as meaningless. Sit with it. Feel what still lingers. Trace the shape of the heat it left behind. Because that was you. Unmasked. Unfiltered. Incandescent. And if you dare to stare into that flickering light, you might just see the version of yourself that's been waiting to be remembered. You are the flame. You are the wax. You are the smoke. And every night, when the world grows silent, you burn just bright enough to see who you really are. Sleepwalker's paradox. You wake up, but something in you is still glowing. Skull and crossbones, the Thanatos gaze coffin. The Thanatos gaze. You wake up breathless again. Another dream of dying. Falling from a building. Drowning in endless black. Watching yourself bleed out. In slow, excruciating detail. And just like before, your heart pounds. Your hands tremble. You whisper the same question. Into the dark. Why do I keep dreaming of death? But here's the unsettling truth. It's not a prophecy. Not a curse. Not even a warning. It's a rehearsal. a quiet, psychological dry run for the inevitable end. Because deep inside your mind, beyond the reach of language or light, something ancient is watching the void and preparing. This is the Thanatos gaze, your subconscious confronting death, not to predict it, but to practice it. These dreams, so vivid, so terrifying, aren't accidents. They are simulations, emotional fire drills. Because the mind, when the stakes are ultimate, doesn't simulate joy, it simulates surrender. It doesn't want you to panic. In that final moment, it wants you to know, to be ready, to have felt the fall, before you actually fall. In classical psychoanalysis, Thanatos is the death drive, a concept introduced by Freud. It is the counterforce to Eros, the life drive. While Eros compels us to create, to connect, to persist, Thanatos draws us inward, towards stillness, entropy, the dissolution of self. But modern neuroscience frames this differently. The brain doesn't treat death as an idea. It treats it as a threat, so intense, it often refuses to compute it. When confronted with mortality, the mind deflects. This happens to others, not to me. But in dreams, that shield drops. No filters, no escape routes, no illusions of immortality, just the raw truth. In that strange theater of the unconscious, your mind dares to whisper, "What if it's me?" That's where the Thanatos gaze begins. You dream of a car crash. The impact plays out in slow motion, almost beautiful in its brutality. Why? Because the mind needs time to feel it, not just to see death, but to register it, to record fear, confusion, release, to simulate letting go. Or maybe you're at your own funeral, watching people cry, or worse, not cry. That's not a dream about control. It's a dream about absence. Your mind staging the great ego death over and over until the performance becomes a ritual. Because if you can accept the idea of being forgotten, you can start living without fear of it. Some of these dreams repeat for years. The same staircase, the same drowning, the same gunshot, echoing in a room that doesn't exist. That's not random. That's sacred. That's symbolic terrain. Your subconscious has chosen for rehearsal, and it keeps playing the scene until your response changes, until you stop flinching, until you start watching. That's when the mind knows. The rehearsal is working. It's not masochism. It's intelligence. The deepest kind. The kind that knows. The greatest fear isn't pain. It's the unknown. And what's more unknown than death? So your mind gives it form, metaphor, symbol, stage lighting. Even if what it hands you is a coffin, a void, a rope. Some cultures say death dreams are visits from the dead. Others say they're transitions between lives. But beneath all those beliefs is a shared truth. Death dreams mean something. They are not neural misfires. They are psychic rituals. The psyche's ancient way of preparing for the unthinkable. And here's where it becomes beautiful, hauntingly so. Because the more you dream of death, the less power death holds over you. The first time, you wake up in a sweat. The 5th time, you wake up still. The 20th time, you wake up with a strange, reverent calm. Something in you has already let go. This is the Thanatos gaze, doing its quiet work. It has stared into the abyss, blinked, and returned. There are even stories. People who, after years of death dreams, find themselves lucid at the moment of dream death. And instead of running, they walk into it. They choose it. They accept it. And they wake up, calm, changed, unafraid. This is not the rehearsal for death. It's the rehearsal for peace. Your mind, without asking, has been preparing you, not to die, but to live without fearing death. A psychological inoculation, microdoses of mortality, delivered through dreams. Until your soul adapts. You're not dying. You're becoming resilient. That's why many on the brink of real death speak of peace, of familiarity, as if they've already been there. Because they have. In dreams. In rehearsals. Written by a brain that always knew it would need the script someday. So don't fear those dreams. Honor them. They are not nightmares. They are dress rehearsals for eternity. You are not a victim in them. You are the protagonist, the one who walks into the final scene, again and again, not to be consumed, but to become the flame in the darkness. And when the day finally comes, when the light flickers for real, and the curtain closes, you'll already know your lines. You'll already know the silence. And maybe, just maybe, you'll smile, because you've seen it before, and you survived it. In dreams, dream persona, death rehearsal, life without fear. That is the gift of the Thanatos gaze. Fog of the self. Until you see what you dream when no one is watching, you haven't met yourself. That's the haunting essence of what we call the fog of the self. A drifting, shapeless layer of consciousness where your truest self waits in silence. It doesn't yell. It doesn't beg for your attention. It simply exists. Not in the spotlight, but in the periphery, slipping into your dreams when you finally stop performing for the world. When the last light goes out. When the stage curtains fall. When no one is looking. Think about it. Every day you wear a personality like armor. To work. Around friends. In front of family. Even alone. Scrolling through your phone. Curating reactions for an invisible audience. The smile. The sigh. That stray thought you thought. Most of it isn't yours. It's a performance. A mask stitched together from culture, trauma, praise, shame, and survival. And it fits so tightly you've forgotten where the skin ends and the mask begins. But when you dream, truly dream, you're not performing anymore. You're not the version of you trying to be enough. You're the raw material. The soul beneath the scaffolding. The dream self doesn't lie to you. It doesn't care who you're trying to be. It shows you what you fear, what you crave, what you've buried so deeply you forgot it was ever there. Some people wake from dreams where they're running endlessly, chased by faceless things. Others are drowning in oceans that don't speak, or falling through infinite skies. Standing in rooms full of people who stare but never speak. These aren't just symbols. They're mirrors. Warped, yes, but unfiltered. You dream of drowning, not because you fear water, but because life is suffocating and you don't know how to ask for help. You fall in dreams not because gravity is out to get you, but because something in your foundations is crumbling, and your subconscious is sounding the alarm. And then there are the dreams where you're someone else entirely. You wake up whispering, "Was that me?" Maybe it was. Or maybe it was the you left behind. The one that vanished the day you compromised too much. Chose silence when you should have screamed. Became who the world needed you to be and forgot who you were. In these dreams, identity becomes liquid. You shift. You bleed into archetypes. The warrior, the child, the wanderer, the lover, the betrayer. The self is no longer a single voice, but a chorus of versions, fighting to be remembered. Carl Jung called this the shadow. The part of your psyche filled with everything you won't look at. Repressed instincts, unlived lives, dangerous brilliance. And when the shadow visits your dreams, it's not to torment you. It's to intervene. You see, most of us live in denial of our own depth. We cling to clean, linear stories. I'm a good person. I'm in control. I know what I want. But dreams don't care about your slogans. They don't care about the script. They bypass the PR team in your mind and deliver the raw data. Here's the guilt you never processed. Here's the hunger for power you pretend you don't feel. Here's the child in you still screaming at a door that never opened. Sometimes your dreams distort the world. No gravity. No rules. Time melting. Places shifting like liquid thought. But that's not chaos. That's freedom. That's your mind unshackled from reality. Testing new physics. Simulating what could be. What if you could fly? What if you could speak to the dead? What if you could walk through your past like a hallway? These aren't fantasies. They're psychic rehearsals. Dreams as laboratories. Not for entertainment, but for healing, reintegration, remembrance. So why do people fear their dreams? Because, deep down, they know they're being watched. Not by monsters, not by spirits, but by themselves. The version that never forgets. The one who's been waiting in the fog, whispering, "When will you stop pretending? When will you come back to me?" You never truly meet yourself until you see what you dream, when no one is watching. But even then, most people look away. They call it just a dream, as if the purest, most unfiltered signal from the soul could be dismissed so easily. But here's the paradox. Your waking life may be the illusion, the mask, the adaptation, while your dreams, those chaotic, surreal, terrifying flickers, might be the only truth you ever receive. There's a reason poets, prophets, and mystics have revered dreams. Not because they're supernatural, but because they pierce the veil. They remember. They warn. They reveal. There are tribes that believe dreams are the voices of ancestors. Ancient Greeks thought they were messages from the gods. Modern psychology sees them as battlegrounds between ego and shadow. And yet we wake up. We scroll. We forget. until the fog thickens, until it consumes. Ask yourself, when was the last time you sat with a dream? Wrote it down. Listened, not for meaning, but for instruction? What if every recurring dream is a plea? What if every strange scene is your mind rehearsing for a moment yet to come? You want to know who you are? Don't start with personality quizzes, astrology, or job titles. Start with what emerges when no one is watching. When even you forget who you're supposed to be. In that fog, there is someone waiting. Someone raw. Someone real. Someone ancient. And maybe, just maybe, that's the real you. The one who dreamed before the world taught you how to forget. Let the fog settle. Walk through it. Not with fear, but with reverence. Because every step you take toward your dreams is a step away from your illusion. You were never the mask. You were the one behind it. Watching, waiting, dreaming, and maybe now, finally waking up. Prophetic flicker. Have you ever woken from a dream that felt more real than your life? Like you had just stepped back into a place that remembered you? That's not imagination. That's the fog thinning. That's the soul whispering. Welcome back. Prophetic flicker. A dream so vivid, so strange, so impossibly specific that it clings to you for days. Not because it made sense, but because it felt like it did. There was something inside it. A symbol, a sensation, a moment you couldn't shake. And maybe you weren't supposed to. This is the prophetic flicker. The idea that some dreams are not mere fantasies, not just the subconscious working overtime, but encrypted messages looped through time. Not imagination, but memory, disguised, compressed, and metaphorical. Sent from a version of you who has already walked roads you haven't yet seen. What if time isn't a straight line, but a spiral? A loop? What if certain events ripple backwards, like lightning seen in reverse? And dreams are the only medium soft enough, strange enough, to carry those delicate signals across the divide. In waking life, we are bound by logic. But in dreams, the walls fall, the ego sleeps, and something deeper, older, steps in. That's when the messages slip through, not in language, not in instruction, but in imagery too dense for the daylight mind to decode. You see a staircase on fire, a faceless child, a shattered clock spinning in the sky. None of it fits. None of it means anything. And yet, the feeling is unmistakable. This is important. It's a flicker, a flash of recognition from the future, folded backward into the folds of now. Why would your future self send you anything at all? Maybe because a decision is approaching, one that could reshape everything. And the future you, armed with hindsight, regret, and clarity, reaches back with the only tool available, resonance. Because time doesn't transmit messages like a telephone. It doesn't allow speech to travel backward. But consciousness, dreams, they can bend. They can carry. Your future self wraps the insight in metaphor, in emotion, in vision strange enough to imprint on your soul. You won't understand it at first, but it plants itself. It waits. It vibrates like a frequency under your skin. And one day, it clicks. You're about to say yes to something that doesn't feel right, or no to something that scares you. And suddenly, that dream returns. The burning staircase, the faceless child, and it all makes sense. It wasn't a nightmare. It was a breadcrumb, a beacon, a signal from your future self trying to alter the course. That's why déjà vu feels like haunting. Because you have been here, not in body, but in blueprint. The dream self already stood in this moment. And now the waking world is catching up. The loop is closing. This isn't science fiction. This is ancient memory. Prophets, shamans, mystics, they didn't dismiss dreams. They revered them. They understood that dreams were not bound by time, that the soul could move both backward and forward, bringing back pieces of the future stitched in metaphor. Even today, people dream of things that later happen. Tragedies, encounters, opportunities. Sometimes they act. Sometimes they don't. But when they do, the outcome shifts. And that raises a chilling question. If a dream shows you the future and you change it, was that future ever real? Yes and no. It was possible. One path among many. Your future self tried to warn you away from it. The future, then, isn't fixed. It's fluid, flickering. It dances like flame until choice locks it into form. Dreams may show you potential, but you are still the one who walks. The message is not destiny. It's direction, not prophecy, but possibility. And sometimes, the dreams go even deeper. You wake up grieving for something you've never lost. You remember places you've never been. You hold knowledge you've never learned. These aren't fantasies. They're emotional data, too heavy to carry in daylight, leaking back from a self still yet to become. But here's the paradox. The messages are never direct. Because the language of dreams isn't logic, it's symbol. You won't get a dream that says, turn left at 3 p.m. You'll get a dream of a boat sinking in a golden sea, a mirror cracking in your childhood bedroom. You'll only understand later when it matters. So how do you navigate it? You don't solve dreams. You feel them. Write them down. Revisit them. Track the patterns. Over time, you'll build your own dictionary, a language only your soul can read. And when waking life begins to echo a dream from years ago, you'll know. You'll feel the flicker, the soft heartbeat of something more. You'll realize, I've seen this. I've been here. And now, I know what to do. The prophetic flicker doesn't happen often. But when it does, it changes everything. Because it proves that time is not a wall, it's a mirror. That your future self is not silent, but reaching. And buried inside you, wrapped in symbol and sleep, is a signal waiting to be heard. So tonight, when your body surrenders and your mind drifts, don't resist. Step into the fog. Follow the fragments. Let yourself receive. The flicker may come as a whisper, or as a storm. But either way, it's you speaking backward. So you can step forward. Dream detour theory. Extra-dimensional drift. What if your dreams aren't yours? What if every night, as your body falls still and your mind slips beneath waking tides, the visions that fill your sleeping skull aren't born from memory, desire, or imagination, but from something far stranger, from places not mapped by thought, not housed in neurons, not yours at all? What if your dreams are the echoes of extra-dimensional drift? Leakage from adjacent realities, whispers from universes brushing against your consciousness, bleeding their fragments into your brain like ink into water? It sounds like science fiction, doesn't it? Too surreal, too speculative. But consider this. Our known universe is governed by physical laws operating across 4 familiar dimensions: length, width, height, and time. But modern physics, especially string theory, suggests there may be more. 10, 11, maybe infinite dimensions, tightly curled, coexisting with ours, invisible to waking eyes, but maybe not to dreaming ones. REM sleep is not passive. It is not silence. It is trance, an altered neurological state where the brain pulses with electric storm patterns, not unlike those seen in psychedelic journeys or deep meditation. During these moments, the veil thins. The membrane between realities softens. And through the cracks, something seeps in. Not entire worlds, not structured beings, but shards, impressions, faces, landscapes, emotions, fractured narratives that defy linearity. Things that were never meant to be understood through our human lens, like trying to interpret a 4-dimensional object with 2-dimensional eyes. This is why dreams are so strange. You find yourself in cities you've never known, but somehow recognize. Speaking languages you've never studied but understand. Living lives that aren't yours, watching from behind the eyes of someone who isn't you. Sometimes, you are someone else entirely. Different name, different gender, different past. And when you wake, breathless, heart racing, you ask, where the hell was I? The answer may be, nowhere in this universe. That's the core of the extra-dimensional drift hypothesis. Dreams are not internal. They're not yours. They're external impressions, cross-dimensional bleeds. Your dreaming mind becomes a receiver, not by will, not by invitation, but because, at night, the walls grow thin. And you're not the only one. Shared dreams, where 2 people, sometimes strangers, recall the same dream. The same place, the same characters, the same impossible sequence. Psychology fumbles for explanations. But if dreams are bleed-through from alternate dimensions, then shared dreams may be overlapping reception. 2 antennas tuned to the same drifting signal. 2 minds brushing against the same uncharted shore. Now ask yourself about déjà vu. That strange flash of familiarity in a moment that has never occurred. You turn a corner. The air stiffens. Your skin knows something before you do. You've never been here. And yet, you have. What if that's not memory? What if it's echo? A ghost from a dream weeks ago. Not a dream born from your past, but from a parallel now, bleeding through from a version of reality that brushed against yours while you slept. And now it's happening again, for the first time. That's not coincidence. That's leakage. Let's go deeper. Sleep paralysis. Waking while your body remains frozen. Figures in the room. A presence pressing on your chest. Buzzing. Watching. Dread. Is it medical? Demonic? Or is it a threshold? A liminal state between consciousness and dream, where awareness is split across dimensions. And those shadows, you see them because, in that moment, you're not only here. Dreams have always resisted reduction. We assign symbols to them. Snakes mean change. Death means rebirth. Teeth falling out means anxiety. But what about the dreams that don't feel like symbols? The ones that feel like broadcasts? As if you were dropped into another life, wearing another soul for a night. Maybe the dimensions drift, like tectonic plates. Usually, the friction is harmless. But sometimes, there's a rupture. And when it happens, it doesn't seek meaning. It doesn't ask permission. It just leaks. Sometimes, it leaks inspiration. There are stories, thousands, of people receiving revelations in dreams. Inventors solving unsolvable problems. Artists creating what they've never seen. Writers channeling entire books as if dictated. August Kekulé dreamt of the Ouroboros and awoke with the molecular structure of benzene. Paul McCartney dreamt the melody for yesterday. Shamans from countless cultures speak of dream journeys, not metaphorically, but literally. They return with knowledge. So what if extra-dimensional drift isn't just an accident, but a form of communication? Not language, not intent, but contact. Frequencies overlapping like radio stations bleeding into one another. Not messages, not conversations, just contact. That would explain the surrealism of dreams. Why characters shift mid-sentence. Why gravity disobeys. Why identities flicker. Why fear coils deep without reason. These are not malfunctions of your mind. They are artifacts. Footprints of a reality your brain was never meant to translate. And the terror you feel in certain dreams. The dread. The presence. The sense that you've seen something you weren't supposed to. That's not fear of imagination. That's recognition. Your soul has wandered out of bounds. We've long believed the dream world is a reflection. But what if it's not a mirror? What if it's a window? A crack in the dimensional wall? And what slips through? Those impossible landscapes, unknown languages, sudden truths, lingering emotions, are the fingerprints of realities that breathe just beyond perception. Different physics, different lives, different yous. The drift doesn't knock. It doesn't ask. It just moves, quiet, constant. And tonight, when you dream, maybe you'll feel it. That sudden shift, that jolt of foreignness, that feeling that you are somewhere else entirely. Don't dismiss it. Don't forget it. Because if extra-dimensional drift is real, then dreams are not the edge of consciousness. They are the doorway. And the doorway is already open. Welcome to the carousel of fractals. Carousel of fractals. Have you ever dreamed within a dream? Woken up only to realize you hadn't woken up at all? You were still dreaming, still inside, spiraling deeper, layer after layer, until you couldn't tell where one ended and the next began. It's like a fractal, a shape within a shape, repeating endlessly, infinitely complex. But what if this isn't just some strange trick of sleep, not a glitch in the brain's fabric? What if it's revealing something deeper? What if the very structure of consciousness, of reality itself, is fractal? A recursive loop, a carousel of endless spirals. This is the carousel of fractals, the idea that your mind is not just capable of recursion, but is made of it. It doesn't just dream within dreams. It is the dream, the recursion engine, the geometry of consciousness folding endlessly inward. Picture this. You go to sleep and awaken in a dream. You realize it's a dream and wake up, only to find the world you've returned to doesn't feel quite real either. You test it. You pinch your skin. Things feel off. And just like that, you fall again, deeper, another layer, another spiral. How do you know what's real when the boundaries keep dissolving? If the mind can dream within itself, who's to say it doesn't create those layers? What if each waking is just another veil, another reflection in an infinite mirror? This recursive experience, the layering of awareness, isn't mere imagination. It's architecture. When you lucid dream, when you experience déjà vu, when time folds and memory loops, these are not glitches. They are glimpses into the geometry behind perception. Fractals don't just repeat, they evolve. Each iteration is similar but never identical. And just like that, your mind doesn't just think in lines, it spirals. Time isn't a straight path, It's a coil, an echo, a loop within a loop. Remember the last time you felt déjà vu? That strange sense that you had been there before, that you knew what was coming? Maybe you weren't recalling the past. Maybe you were touching a parallel layer of your own perception. Maybe déjà vu is your consciousness brushing against itself in another recursion. Reality may not be linear. It may be fractal. Every decision you make, every thought, every ripple of emotion is another split in the pattern. Each version of you, each branch of your path, is a reflection of some inner truth, an echo in the carousel. And here's where it spirals deeper still. What if it's not just your mind? What if the universe, the cosmos itself, is built on this same recursive principle? Every galaxy, every cell, every moment of time, a self-similar pattern, endlessly unfolding. We picture time as a line, a chain of events stretching forward. But what if it's not? What if time is a spiral, a fractal helix, bending and looping? Not to repeat, but to deepen? Your life is not a straight path. It's a spiral staircase. Each moment circles back to something familiar, not to revisit, but to understand more fully. Every breakthrough, every flash of clarity, is the unveiling of another layer. And still, the spiral continues. But there is no center. There is no edge. Just layers within layers, dreams within dreams. And this is the unsettling beauty of the carousel. You can never truly step off. You are not just witnessing the fractal. You are the fractal. You are the creator and the created, the dreamer and the dream. You are spiraling inward, deeper into yourself, deeper into the recursive architecture of being. And perhaps that's the point. There is no end, only the next veil to lift, the next dream to enter, the next spiral inward. So next time you find yourself slipping through layers, whether in a dream, a memory, or a moment that feels like it's already happened, don't be afraid. You're just moving through the carousel, the mind's infinite pattern, the universe dreaming itself, again, and again, and again. Infernal theater. A hidden world awakens within our minds, a place of spectacle and dread, meticulously crafted by our deepest fears. This is the infernal theater, a haunting mental opera where nightmares reign, fear conducts, and we are helplessly strapped into seats of psychological torment. Here, every terror becomes art, every anxiety a performance, complete with screaming choirs and curtains blacker than midnight. Nightmares are not merely bad dreams. They are elaborate psychological dramas staged by the mind itself, woven from threads of suppressed fears, hidden traumas, and primal anxieties into chilling narratives. In the infernal theater, your subconscious becomes playwright, director, and actor, conjuring visions that unsettle the very core of your being. You are the captive audience, forced to witness your darkest fears dancing before you. Impossible to look away from, impossible to silence. Imagine a stage cloaked in darkness, illuminated only by flickering lights, distorted memories emerging from shadowed wings. These memories are never kind. They are echoes our waking minds refuse to face, traumas buried deep, childhood fears, sudden loss, shame we pretend never happened. By day, we act as though they don't exist. But in the infernal theater, denial has no power. The subconscious drags them out, kicking and screaming, into horrifying clarity, forcing us to relive the pain, the grief, the terror we've tried to forget. This infernal opera is orchestrated meticulously. Neuroscience reveals that during nightmares, the amygdala, the brain's fear center, becomes hyperactive, while rational regions dim. Fear becomes the conductor, silencing logic and amplifying dread. The result is an overwhelming, visceral experience that leaves us trembling as we wake, as though we have narrowly escaped real danger. The infernal theater understands human nature intimately. It knows our weaknesses, our secrets, our forbidden thoughts. It stages its horrors accordingly. A shadowy figure chasing us through endless corridors mirrors our avoidance of unresolved problems. Losing control in a falling dream reflects our fears of helplessness in waking life. These nightmares disturb us because they are real, emotionally, psychologically, reflections of truths we suppress while awake. Yet the infernal theater is not pure torment. It serves a deeper purpose. Like the tragedy in classical theater or the horror film we watch willingly, nightmares offer emotional catharsis. They expose hidden wounds and repressed feelings, urging us towards self-confrontation. Take a man who dreams of drowning, night after night, suffocating in cold, dark water. To his conscious mind, the dream is terror, but his subconscious whispers a deeper truth. He is suffocating in waking life, buried under expectations, obligations, fears left unspoken. The nightmare becomes the spotlight, illuminating his need for release, for breath, for change. And then, there is the chorus, the howling, screaming voices that amplify our terror. They are not merely sound. They are the voices of our own doubt, judgment, and self-loathing, multiplied into an overwhelming symphony. They echo in our waking life too, long after the dream has ended. Whispers of insecurity and fear that shape our thoughts, our choices, our identity. The black curtains, heavy, velvet, impenetrable, symbolize the barriers we build around emotional pain. They conceal horrors from our conscious awareness, until sleep tears them down. Behind those curtains lie the memories we swore to forget, failures, humiliations, traumas. In the infernal theater, they wait for their cue to step into the spotlight, demanding acknowledgement, demanding to be seen. But why does the mind stage such terrifying performances? Because pain ignored becomes a ghost, haunting us. Because what we deny festers in silence. Because healing requires a confrontation with what hurts. Nightmares create a space to feel what is too overwhelming in the daylight. They give form to the formless, voice to the voiceless parts of our soul. Take the woman who dreams of her home in flames, night after night, searching for loved ones she can never reach. At first, the dream is horror, but through it, she begins to see. The fire is not destruction, but transformation. It represents her fear of losing everything, control, love, identity. And when she understands the truth buried in the flames, the dream begins to change. She awakens not just gasping, but awakening, transformed. Still, some nightmares persist relentlessly, refusing to fade. When the infernal theater spirals out of control, it can trap us in endless loops, each performance more brutal than the last. Breaking free requires intervention, therapy, introspection, emotional honesty. When we face our truths with open eyes, the nightmare loses its grip. The play ends. The curtains close. Peace begins to return. But what remains most profound about the infernal theater is its honesty. Unlike waking life, where we hide behind masks and rationalizations, dreams do not lie. They do not soften their blows. They confront us, unfiltered. In doing so, they offer rare emotional clarity, the kind that has the power to break illusions and awaken something deeper within us. In the end, the infernal theater reminds us of our humanity, the fragility behind strength, the fear beneath bravery, the darkness behind every smile. It teaches compassion for ourselves and for others, because everyone carries hidden pain. Everyone has a private stage with screaming choirs and black curtains. So the next time sleep overtakes you and the infernal theater draws open its shadowed stage, remember, nightmares are not meant to break you. They are meant to wake you. Each terrifying performance is a mirror, a message, a guide. And within that darkness, beneath the shrieking voices, beyond the curtains fall, lies the potential for your most profound transformation. A rebirth in shadow. A cyclonic identity forming in the abyss. You're standing in a room, not of the world, but of your own making. The stage is yours now, and the final act has just begun. Lucid labyrinth. The floor shifts beneath your feet. Gravity sways to the rhythm of your emotions. These places, these unreal landscapes, are dreams. And within them lies a labyrinth, more intricate than any cathedral built of stone or steel. This is the lucid labyrinth. A place not merely imagined, but directly experienced, not in waking life, but in the elusive state of conscious dreaming. Here, you awaken within the dream, and for a few shimmering minutes, you are no longer a prisoner of the physical world. You are its architect, its God. Lucid dreaming is the rare and potent state where the dreamer becomes aware they are dreaming and does not wake. For some, it's a flicker, a crack in the illusion. For others, it becomes a blank canvas where the subconscious mind is the brush, and reality bends to the whim of pure thought. Want to fly? You soar. Want to breathe underwater? Gills manifest. Want to summon a city of memories you've never lived? It materializes before you, fog becoming form, thought becoming structure. But here's where it twists. If you control the dream, who or what controls you within it? This is where the labyrinth begins. On the surface, lucid dreaming is exhilarating, freedom, fantasy, escape. But descend deeper and something uncanny starts to emerge. The dream doesn't just respond to you. It reacts. It shifts. It resists. Try to impose too much logic and the scene glitches. Try to escape a fear and it mutates, adapts, follows. Veteran dreamers speak of being watched, chased, interrogated, not by familiar faces, but by presences. Entities that seem aware not just of you, but of your awareness. As if the dream has eyes. As if something is there with you. Who are they? One theory. In moments of lucidity, we brush against the deepest substrata of the mind. Layers older than language, older than self. The dreamer may believe they're alone in their sandbox of thought, but what if the dream has guardians? Subconscious sentinels. Archetypal intelligences evolved to keep the psyche from wandering too far off the map. These are the dream characters that do not obey. They question your presence. They defy your will. A man paints a dream city in light, changes its skyline with a gesture. But when he tries to alter a passerby's face, the figure stops, stares, and says, "Why are you doing this?" The entire world freezes. This isn't rare. There's a pattern. As dreamers gain mastery, the dream responds more dynamically. It resists, as if it's testing you, as if you've entered a simulation that follows hidden rules. And that leads to a more chilling idea. What if not all of the lucid dream is yours? What if some of it is coming from outside? There are reports, rare but persistent, of shared dreaming. Strangers recalling identical dreamscapes. Recurring beings. Dream cultures separated by oceans and language that describe the same dream physics. Floating cities, infinite staircases, impossible mirrors. Carl Jung called it the collective unconscious, a shared reservoir of symbols and memories all humans tap into. Perhaps, especially in lucid dreams, we don't just dip into our own minds. We step into this collective space. A communal dream field. A pool where all psyches blend. A realm not bound to your neurons, but to everyone's. And in this labyrinth, you're not just the dreamer. You're also the observed. Some dreamers meet figures that seem wrong. Not dreamlike. Too real. Too solid. They speak languages the dreamer doesn't know but understands. They resist erasure. They hold secrets the dreamer hasn't yet encountered in waking life. A woman in London dreams lucidly. She finds a wall in a vast desert. She tries to go beyond it, but a man appears. "Not yet," he says. "Who are you?" she asks. He smiles. "I'm the one waiting for you to ask that question when you're awake." She wakes trembling. 3 months later, in a waking meditation, she sees the same face. He says nothing. He only smiles. Was he real? Was she lucid? Or was she summoned? Lucid dreams may be thresholds. Not imagined ones, but psychic ones. Intersections of conscious mind, unconscious terrain, and something external. Tunnels leading not just into hidden chambers of the self, but perhaps into realms beyond the self. To explore is not without consequence. The deeper you go into lucidity, the deeper the labyrinth reaches into you. It mirrors you, learns you. Sometimes it fights back. Some lucid dreamers report sleep paralysis after intense dreams. Others feel their dreams bleed into waking life. Symbols recurring, déjà vu amplified, visions wrapped in archetype. One man dreamt of an old woman who taught him a language unknown to him. Months later, in a remote temple in India, he found glyphs on a wall that matched his dream. He could read them. He still doesn't know how. This challenges our understanding of dreams. Are they memory static? Or simulations? Or auditions? What if lucid dreaming isn't just a skill, but a test? What if mastering your dream world proves something to someone? The true unease is this. When you become conscious in a dream, the dream becomes interactive. And in any interactive system, there's never just one player. So who's the other? Something may be watching, not to judge, but to understand, to analyze your choices, your desires, your fears, to observe what you build when freed from limits. Because if dreams are simulations, they may be simulations for a purpose. Perhaps lucidity is not a glitch in the matrix of sleep, but your invitation to peek behind its curtain. And what you see behind that veil may not comfort you. So next time you're in a dream and realize you're lucid, don't rush to fly or fight or flee. Pause, look around, and ask, who built this? Listen carefully. You may hear silence, or you may hear footsteps, your own or someone else's, echoing, following, waiting, not for you to ask if you're dreaming, but for you to ask, if I'm in control, who's watching me be in control? Welcome to the lucid labyrinth. The doorway is always open, but some who enter never truly return, and some return different. Cosmic echoes linger. What if, every time you close your eyes, something else opens theirs? The Eden effect. There's a fragile moment, right as you wake, when the dream still clings to your mind. Golden, sacred, you were somewhere perfect, a place so beautiful it felt divine. Maybe it was a sunlit field filled with faces you've long forgotten. Maybe it was a city of light, or the embrace of someone you've lost. And then, as if pulled away by unseen hands, it's gone, slipping through your fingers, like sand through water. The more you chase it, the faster it vanishes. You're left staring at the ceiling, haunted not by a nightmare, but by the unbearable loss of something wonderful. This is the Eden effect, the quiet vanishing of the most beautiful dreams. Perhaps not by accident, but by design. Why do nightmares linger, while paradise evaporates? Why can we recall the feeling of falling, being hunted, trapped in terror, but not the face of the lover we just kissed in a dream? Why do the moments that fill us with warmth, hope, and meaning dissolve first? It almost seems cruel, but beneath that cruelty lies something disturbingly logical. Protection. Because if we remembered paradise too clearly, reality might never be enough. The Eden effect suggests that the mind, in its infinite intelligence, censors beauty more ruthlessly than horror, not because it devalues it, but because it respects it. The deeper the bliss, the more dangerous the withdrawal. A dream of perfect love, eternal youth, endless peace. These things challenge the mind's willingness to return to the hard edges of waking life. If you held on too tightly, you might never let go. So the mind erases, the door closes, the garden vanishes, and you're left with only the echo of something sacred you're no longer allowed to touch. Think about it. How many times have you woken up feeling homesick for a place that doesn't exist? A deep yearning in your chest for something unnamed. That's the Eden effect, a ghost of emotional perfection, the memory of a dream where everything made sense, a dream that felt more real than real. And that's the danger, because if you could remember it fully, you might start questioning which version of life is true, the one you wake up to, or the one you leave behind. Neurologically, dreams are encoded in the hippocampus, the brain's memory center. But studies show that emotionally intense dreams, especially beautiful ones, can trigger sudden changes in brain wave patterns upon waking. The result? The memory self-destructs. It's almost like the mind wants you to forget Eden, because Eden, if remembered, might ruin everything else. It mirrors ancient myth. In Genesis, Eden is not destroyed. It's hidden, guarded. After the fall, humanity is exiled, not because Eden ceased to exist, but because access became too dangerous. The flaming sword is not punishment. It's preservation, to keep us moving forward, to protect us from obsession. In dreams, the same rule applies. You are allowed to glimpse the garden, but not to stay, and certainly not to carry it back with you. The Eden effect also explains the paradox of grief. Sometimes the most painful dreams are not nightmares, but reunions. Seeing someone you've lost, hearing their voice, feeling their warmth again, waking up to find they're still gone, is like being cast out of Eden all over again. The dream was too real, and now the world feels too hollow. This is the cost of dreaming paradise. But here's the deeper truth. The Eden effect isn't just a mechanism of loss. It's also a message, a hidden code, written in the language of longing. These dreams, though fleeting, are reminders that somewhere inside you exists the blueprint of what beauty feels like, of what perfect love could be, that your soul knows something this world hasn't yet delivered, and still craves it. You may forget the dream's details, but not how it made you feel. That feeling is the key, because it's not entirely imaginary. It's a glimpse of your inner compass, your emotional North Star, pointing you toward the kind of life you want to build, the kind of people You want to find the kind of peace your spirit still believes is possible. Sometimes, if you're lucky, fragments linger. A melody, a color, a name you don't recognize but can't forget. These fragments are seeds. You carry them forward. Into art, into words, into relationships, into quiet moments. When you close your eyes and hope you'll dream it again. But most of the time, Eden vanishes. Not because you are unworthy, not because it wasn't real, but because memory would collapse beneath its weight. Beauty that pure must remain elusive, just out of reach. Because in that distance, lives desire, and in desire, we move, we grow, we seek, we write songs, paint pictures, chase meaning. We try, in every broken, beautiful way, to recreate what the dream only gave us for a second. The Eden effect isn't cruelty. It's longing, weaponized as purpose. You lose the dream, but keep the ache, and that ache becomes your fire. So when you wake from a dream, that leaves you trembling with joy. Don't curse its disappearance. Bless it. Thank it for reminding you what your heart is capable of, what your mind still dares to create, what your soul refuses to forget. You may never return to Eden in sleep, but maybe, just maybe, you'll build something like it in the waking world. A moment, a feeling, a connection, a place that feels like coming home. Because Eden was never just a dream. It was the map, etched into your spirit, a memory of where you came from, or a whisper of where you still might go.